With the Butt Kicker Gamer 2, what you see and what you hear is what you feel. Butt Kicker, the future is feeling.
Hey there, I'm Nicholas Dubois, co-founder of Advanced Sim Racing. We are a Canadian company. So what we did here today is for a real petrol head. He's really passionate about cars, as you can see behind me. We did a turnkey solution for him based on his needs. We try to gather as much information as we can on our client, and like we did today, we install a D-box system, we install ultra-wide cube control steering wheel. We try to provide the best quality for your budget. So let's say if you want a budget of 10 grand, we're gonna give you something that's the best for 10 grand. If you want 20 grand, then we always try to stay within your boundaries. We do try to make it as easy as possible. So the client, once we install everything, it's pretty much gonna be a turnkey. So he's gonna press start on his computer, and right after, we'll try to explain everything, how it goes, how it works, and then he's ready to go. Our aluminum is from USA. Treated in Canada, cut in Canada. So we do sand all our aluminum piece just to make sure the powder coat sticks to it. And that's one of the reasons why we use powder coat, is to make sure you have the best aluminum finish in the industry. And our quality is beyond what you can get with any other competitors right now. We are really, really passionate about all the gear, all the cockpits, all the sim hardware. And that's why we want to create something that's really gonna reflect our passion into our product. Come visit us at advancedsimracing.com. You can always reach us if you have any questions. You can call us, you can text us, you can go on Facebook, like our page, ask us questions over there, and we'll make sure to answer every questions there is. We are very passionate about what we do, and we try to make it as easier for you to go into the sim racing world, because there's a lot of gear, there's a lot of options, but let us guide you through your process, and let's hope you'll be an Advanced Sim Racing customer.
new season brings with it the traditional sense of excitement, the thrill of change, and the hope that comes with an empty standing sheet. And this year for the Precision Racing League is no exception. Will we see new names rise to the top of the standings for the MX-5 series? And with the new GT4 series, who will be able to work their way up to the top of the order? And will any of the new GT4 machinery prove to be a trump card? Well, we won't have long to wait to find out the answers to that as we get ready to get going here for round one of the Precision Racing League's Monday night series here on RaceSpotTV. My name is DJ Clark, joined here in the booth by Joey Tebben, with Hugo Lewis behind the scenes as our director and producer. And Joey, as we take a look here on the schedule, we start the season off strong at the Temple of Speed here at Monza, albeit with a different sense of it than we're used to. But there is plenty to be excited about as we look ahead to this 10-week calendar.
Yeah, it's a very exciting calendar. As always here in the Precision Racing League, Brands Hatch Indy coming up next. That's 2 road course bull rings in a row. And then sort of the traditional tracks you might expect for MX-5 racing coming up over the course of these next 10 weeks.
Yeah, it's going to be very, very interesting. Got my eyes on the Daytona road course, which always proves to be an interesting one there. And I think today the real question is, can anybody be able to top off Bradley Holly, who has seemed to be the dominant force the past couple of seasons in this MX-5 series?
Well, in any car, road course or oval, it's almost impossible to beat Bradley Holly, but this track is very much a wild card. It's as close to the sort of oval pack racing we see at Daytona and Talladega as you can get on a road course. It's a very unorthodox layout of Monza. It's got 4 corners, but it's not an oval, but it's going to look very much like an oval race, and we know Bradley Holly's pretty good at those from previous competition in the PRL, and the Cup Series, and the Truck Series.
Indeed, we do. Drivers out on track right now trying to get their qualifying laps in. But before we get to the action, we'd like to thank our sponsors for today. First off, Advanced Sim Racing. Owned and operated by passionate sim racers, Advanced Sim Racing designs and builds the sturdiest, most durable profile racing simulation cockpits available in the market today. All PRL members also get a 5% discount on ASR products by using the Precision5 coupon code. Also like to thank RaceLab apps. RaceLab helps you to improve your driving skills. With modern overlays, race statistics, and native VR integration, you can get the best out of iRacing. Start using it now for free at racelab.app. Also, the Butt Kicker. Butt Kicker products provide an incredible immersion and realism to every game. Feel every nuance and truly put yourself in the driver's seat. And finally, we'd like to thank NinjaTrader. Ready to compete against the financial markets? Supporting over 60,000 users across the globe, NinjaTrader provides award-winning trading software and brokerage services. NinjaTrader is always free to use for advanced charting, backtesting, and trade simulation. Visit ninjatrader.com to get started with a risk-free trading simulator and start tracking your performance. We'd also like to give a massive thank you to VCO, who comes on board as a sponsor for this series, the virtual competition organization, bringing a new level of excitement and realism here to this series that we have seen out many times. And Joey, drivers out on track for qualifying right now. Everybody trying to take the best use they can of the slipstream around this oval-like circuit.
Yeah, that's a very interesting dynamic here in this qualifying session. It's an open qualifying session. All the cars are out on track, and that means that drivers are going to have to make use of that slipstream. They're going to want some buddies. They might want to form up a whole pack to maximize their speed. It's not single car qualifying. It's not qualifying like you would normally expect in these Miatas, in these MX-5s. Bradley Holly here is using a buddy here, big draft, and you can see it pay off in the lap time there, down into the 57s for the first time.
And Bradley was quick during the practice session, so he is certainly one to keep an eye on. The traditional ones that are working their way forward as well. Ryan Kings, Ian Cabana, some names that we are used to seeing, but a new name here up into the top 5, David Van Roy as well. We watch Holly coming out of really one of the only heavy braking zones on this circuit. That sort of interesting little infield section there, let's call it, that deviates from the traditional racing line here at Monza.
Yeah, there's only really 2 braking zones. There's the braking zone into turn 1, then 2 is flat out. Turn 3, usually a little bit of a lift, a little bit of a brake, but no shifting required. You stay in second, and then you brake in here for the parabolica. Full speed, as quick as you can, get on the throttle as Bradley Holly did here. This isn't going to be a fast lap. As you saw, he kind of got out of the way, but now he's going to begin that fast lap. High speed here, down the front straight. It's a shortened front straight. It's not as fast as it would normally be, but you'll see just at the end of this white wall up here. Heavy braking down into first gear for Bradley Holly. Pretty much nailed that one. He got a good draft. Oh, no, he didn't on exit. Got a little bit too loose. That's going to mess up this lap for him, but we'll try and get those tires back under him. He's got 15 more minutes to better that lap time as Mark Kalin went up the pole.
Yeah, Mark Kalin there continuing his good run from last season, able to close last season out with 2 victories on the trot, his first 2 victories over the course of his entire Precision Racing League campaign. So good to see Mark to be able to do that, and he currently has a 1/10 of a second advantage over any of the other drivers. And, you know, Joey, I've got to say here, with only a circuit that's about 1.5 miles in length, that 1/10 of a second is a pretty massive advantage.
It definitely is, and don't expect big gaps in qualifying here. There's a couple seconds between everybody at the moment as Chase goes to the top of the board, but I honestly expect by the end of this session, every single driver, either in the 57s or the 58s. It's a short lap. There's only 2 braking zones, and in the Precision Racing League, there's generally some pretty evenly matched competition, so I would not expect big gaps here over the entire field.
Yeah, indeed, really only our top 13 drivers to put a time down on the board, only separated by about 2 seconds there, so some pretty hefty small gaps as they run. Indeed, our top 11 only separated by 1.1 seconds. A little bit of jockeying here of position as we see them go down the back straightaway, trying to get things figured out. Looks like Holly's going to pull himself in the lead. We jump on board here with Mark Kalin, who's going to have a little bit of a look to the inside of the number 11 of Malcolm Foster as they go down. Giving a quick apology there on the radio. I think he may have just forced Malcolm a little bit wide.
Yeah, even if he didn't force Malcolm a little bit wide, just going side by side really kills a lot of your speed on this lap, especially when you're doing a qualifying session like this. You really want to be single file, and then once we get into the race in a few minutes, you also want to be single file for as long as you can and kind of help each other, push each other, Daytona Talladega style, because once you start going side by side, once you start slowing each other down, that's how you lose the pack.
Yes, it is, as we jump on board with another new face here in the series, Rodrigo Milken, as he works his way down into the Parabolica. Rodrigo currently sitting in 7th right now. As we said, a new face into this series. We haven't seen him all that many times before, but he brings that car out of the Parabolica. And as you mentioned there earlier, Joey, so important to be able to bring as much momentum as you can. We're going to see a lot of drivers testing track limits there along the outside, I have to think.
And you can see that lap time for Rodrigo Michelin, 58.9. He had no help, no cars in front of him, no draft, and that really showed in that lap time. Almost 7/10 slower than his quickest. He's almost going to throw it off the road in turn 1, but Rodrigo's going to need to re-rack and get a couple buddies out there to speed him up.
Yeah, it looks like that pack that we were following earlier, including Kalin and Holly, bopping down pit lane right now, probably trying to get a fresh set of rubber on the car, maybe change things out a little bit, get some fuel as we watch Christopher Grimes here coming across the line. Looks like he's going to be unable to improve on his best time, but I'll tell you who did just improve. That's Patrick Cowgill up with a 58.458. That's going to put him into 10th place.
And you saw Gallant and Grimes there going side by side, and that really did not help Sylvain Gallant, who is currently at the bottom of the timesheets. I thought he might have gotten a little bit of draft help at the start of that lap, but he did not. And Patrick Cowgill on your screen here, he's all on his own as well. There's a couple cars up the road. He's going to be hoping to catch them, but this seems like it'll be a vanilla lap all on his own.
Yeah, definitely a vanilla lap there. A couple of the cars getting off to this side here for the number 31 coming to a stop. It looks like calling that quits as they run. Cowgill's going to try to bring that car down through the corner. Not seeing any improvement there on this lap necessarily, although he did set a personal best there in the first sector, so maybe some times to be able to be brought down here. Try to improve on a 58.459. He's going to cross over the line. He's able to improve by about 5 thousandths of a second, although that's not going to move him up the order from 10th.
Yeah, 5 thousandths of a second. That's about what you can expect. There's not that many braking zones on this track. There's not that much room for improvement from a driver's standpoint. It really comes down to how much help you have, as Michael Chase here does have a car in front of him. Michael Chase currently 2/10 off the pace. I think he might have got a little bit held up there on exit, but we'll see. He's got no help coming to the line, but he certainly had some help down that back straight.
Yes, indeed he did, and that was Ryan Scott that he worked his way around. Chase going to cross over the line there. Not going to be an improvement for him, although we do see Ryan Scott putting his way onto the board there in 15th. About halfway done in this qualifying session. Bradley Holly leading the number 62 there of Mark Kalin down through the Parabolica. 2 seasoned veterans, as we mentioned, probably doing a little bit of swapping back and forth as they run. And as we cross over this halfway point, it is Ryan Kings that sits on the top of the standings by a whopping quarter of a second.
Yeah, that's quite a big gap for Kings. He must have had a fantastic draft. Holly crosses the line, doesn't go any quicker, basically about the same as his last lap. Kalin stays ahead. Smith up into 8th into the 58.273. That's a pretty solid lap, but Mark Kalin is going to the back of this train here, and he wants to maximize that draft. He's up in 3rd, but there's still 4 tenths he needs to pick up, and he's going to need a double draft, maybe even a triple draft, if he wants to make up that much momentum.
Yes, he is. The one good news for him, though, is that I don't think qualifying around here is going to be necessarily as important as we see it in some other tracks that we go to over the course of this season. As we mentioned, that draft going to be absolutely mega over the course of the race, and I've got to think that you're going to be able to send some good moves down to the inside, specifically going into turn 1 over the course of the race, as we now pick up Charles Sumner in the 98.
Yeah, it's a track where qualifying position doesn't matter as much as some other road courses, but you still do want to start as far ahead as you can, kind of lead the train and make sure you don't fall off the bat, because that is easy to do once things start to get strung out. You might have a pack of, say, 6 cars leading the race, and then everybody else can't really catch up to them. So you do still want to start up front, but there's going to be plenty of opportunities here for advancing your way through the field if you don't have the best qualifying.
For sure there are, and another way that drivers are going to be able to potentially take advantage of that will be through the pit stops that we anticipate to see over the course of this race. Now remember, it's 30% fuel limits here on these MX-5s, so pit stops are not mandatory, but they are altogether expected, as you're really not going to be able to save all that much fuel to be able to make this on no stops.
And that's an interesting dynamic, because if these drivers, or if anybody has done any of the official races at Monza Junior in these cars this week, that's a 35-minute race with no pit stops. So these drivers haven't really had a chance to test out pit strategy in a full field of drivers. So you better hope you have some teammates, you better hope you have some people to bounce strategy ideas off of, because it's never easy to determine race strategy, especially at a place as crazy as this on your own.
For sure. The other thing to keep in mind here, and we may be dealing with it a little bit of the course of the race, is the incident limits. Very, very strict incident limits in the Precision Racing League. You get a drive-through penalty at 13 incidents and disqualified at 17. Now, we don't traditionally think of Monza necessarily as a place where you rack up those incident points, but I could certainly see a situation where you maybe have a little bit of argy-bargy going down into turn 1, maybe run the track a little bit wide going down through the Parabolica, and soon as you know it, you're looking at 10 incidents.
Well, you just saw Ryan Scott there through turn 3. He cut that grass on the inside, and if you do that too aggressively, you will get that 1X. And in a 35-minute race, a lap that's shorter than a minute, 35 laps, and if you cut that turn 2 every single time, you're going to be going way over the incident limit. So you have to really be careful when you're trying to maximize as much speed as possible on a high-speed track to not overstep the limits and overstep your incident counter, which is very easy to do with the grass as close as it is.
Yes, it is. As we continue to watch here, Michael Chase currently back in second place right now. Doesn't look like he's improving on this time. I'm not seeing a personal best being set down in that first sector, and indeed, as he's going to cross over the line with a 58 flat, not going to be able to improve there on his best time of a 57.690 as they run. Jumping over here to Austin Bartlett Chase, currently down in 14th position, and he's looking like he's given a little bit of a toe there to Michael Chase as they run.
Yeah, Michael Chase is the chaser here, and he's going to hope that he doesn't get held up here. Ryan Scott's up ahead, and Ryan Kings is even further ahead. They're a little bit spaced out. They're not going to be able to work together as a 4-car pack at the moment, but with how slow Kings is going, there might be a 3-car pack. There might be a little bit of help for Austin Bartlett Chase here through the Parabolica. This is another place where you can also cut it a little bit too much to the inside. Bartlett Chase kind of does the opposite there, drifts it out a little bit too wide. I don't think he maximized his exit there, but coming to the line, he's got that tiny bit of draft, doesn't help him. And can he advance from 14th? No, he cannot.
Yeah, it doesn't look like he's going to be able to get that done there. Ryan King's in that 43, pulling off to the side there as they run down to the main straightaway here. A couple of other drivers continuing to be out on track. The number 81 here, bringing that car to the far limits of the track. It's really what you got to do coming there out of those corners. As we've said all the way around, it is momentum, momentum, momentum around here.
And I almost feel bad for Rodrigo. Last time we checked in on him, he had no friends with him either. He had nobody to help him out with the draft. And again, he's just got completely clean track ahead of him, completely clean track behind him. I think I see Cabana in the distance, but no, it's just Rodrigo and Rodrigo alone. And that's going to be extremely frustrating because he's probably thinking, I'm driving some pretty good laps here, but where's the time going to come from?
Yeah, for sure, and he crosses over the line there. Rodrigo not able to improve. Michelin going to stay back in P9 right now. We do have a little bit of a draft train starting to form here. This is Christopher Grimes up ahead in that 75, and then the number 52 of Sylvian Gallant as they run. Gallant hoping to improve here. He is currently the last driver to have set a time back in 15th place.
Grimes and Gallant, these two were close together earlier in the session. I don't know if they're actually working together intentionally here, but if they are, it will help Gallant more, and it does. Gallant jumps up only one spot, but he's not at the bottom of the timesheets anymore, and you can see that really helped him chasing down the 75. He's going to get another lap here. He's probably not going to catch him by the end of the lap, and that's honestly perfect for Gallant. You don't want to catch the guy. You don't want to slow yourself down. You just want to have a little bit of a rabbit you can chase and take a little bit of the draft off of.
For sure, as they now work their way down the backstretch, waiting to see here if anybody else is going to be able to set a time in the final 3 minutes and 30 seconds of this qualifying session here. 17 drivers entered into the session, seeing 15 drivers right now with time. Bradley Holly leading the way of this little train. That's going to be Charles Sumner behind him, and I believe Mark Kalin picking up the double draft as they run. No improvement there from any of the drivers, but it looks like that's going to be Holly pulling off to the side there, letting Charles Sumner on by. Sumner will have gotten a nice draft down the front straightaway, but he's going to be lacking one down into Parabolica.
Yeah, unfortunately, Mark Kalin in the 62 there, he got that great draft, and I think he might have just not realized how much faster he was going, because as he threw it down into turn one, he just threw it off the road, or threw it off the apex at least, and ruined that lap before it even started. But he's going to fall back behind Holly. He's going to try and re-rack here and try and go for the same thing on this second try.
Yeah, he's going to be looking to improve. Not seeing any green sectors being laid down, unfortunately, by any of the drivers. So track temperature starting to maybe play a little bit into the thing here. It is 111 degrees Fahrenheit out on track right now. Very, very toasty. And so drivers are going to have to keep an eye out on that. Focus back on Sylvian Gallant, one of those drivers we were talking about. He did go faster, setting a personal best through Sector 1. He's going to cross over the line there. He's going to be able to improve 2 positions. That'll bump him up to 12th overall.
Drafted behind Grimes finally paid off for him, and he picked up those extra tenths. He's only 0.04 of a second off of David Van Roy in P11, so maybe one more good lap, one more great draft, and Sylvian Gallant might not be out of the conversation for the top 10 here.
There certainly may not be. Only 1 minute and 50 seconds left to go in this qualifying session. Laps being set down at about 3 seconds shy of a minute, so plenty of time for these drivers to get 2 more hot laps in as they run. Bradley Holly working his way around right now. That's going to be Charles Sumner well up the road from him. Charles is about 1.5 seconds down the road, so probably not going to be picking up too much of a draft there from that number 98.
Yeah, but Holly, luckily, has been a little bit faster than Sumner. So if he can catch him here on this lap, get one more shot, when he's a little bit closer, he might have a better shot. But here's Michael Chase, P2, 2 tenths off pole still. And unfortunately, he's not going to be able to do anything to beat that because how the cards have been dealt here, he's got nobody in front of him. He's got Austin Bartlett Chase behind him, who's going to be getting a lot of help here. We'll see if he jumps up the timesheets. I don't see him moving up, but Michael Chase helping out his fellow Chase, Austin Bartlett Chase, and here's that Mark Kalin train trying to chase down Charles Sumner.
And I can tell you that Bradley Holly had a little bit of an incident. He spun coming out of that little infield section, so that is going to put him down the order, and it looks like Holly is going to be resting in pit lane, more than likely not going to be able to put another lap on the board. Watching here, Mark Kalin, he was able to set a personal best time through the last lap, but not seeing any improvement here on this lap. He'll get one more bite at the apple, though, as he was unable to improve, ticking down here with only about 15 seconds left to go.
Michael Chase once more through Parabolica, and he's going to be just as frustrated as anybody. No cars in front of him. He's probably driving the laps of his life, but down those straights, that optimal time is just falling and falling away. His best lap is a 57.7. He's doing a 58.7 with no help, so that just goes to show how much that draft helps. And Chase sees the checkered flag. That's over. Ryan Kings is going to get a little bit of help here, but he doesn't really need it.
No, he doesn't. Sitting at the pointy end of the field, he's going to get a little bit of a draft here from David Van Roy as they fly down to take their last laps. Is that going to be an improvement for Ryan Kings? No, he's going to be up 3/10 of a second off, although right in front of him, David Van Roy was able to improve up into a 7th overall position. Mark Kalin and Charles Sumner crossing over the line. That's going to be an improvement for Kalin. He'll bump his way up onto the 2nd row of the grid up into P4.
And Kalen's going to be happy about that. He's going to be starting more or less alongside Bradley Holly, so they can probably work together, see if they can get in line with each other. Austin Bartlett Chase looks like he might be the last driver to cross the line here. He's got that draft from Michael Chase ahead. 58.5 is what he did his best to the line. Final lap of the session. Doesn't improve. That's going to be frustrating for him, but with only 16 cars in the session, starting out back, you might still be part of the lead pack, and he's still got as much of a shot as anybody.
Exactly. We've got plenty of racing to go. Remember, a 35-minute race here, and let's run you through the starting grid. It is going to be Ryan Kings leading off in pole position with the number 34 of Michael Chase to his outside. Behind them, it'll be Bradley Holly and Mark Kalin in row 2. Row 3 is going to be Ian Cabana and Ryan Scott, and then behind them, it'll be David Van Roy and Christopher Grimes. Charles Sumner will line up P9 with Rodrigo Milliken there in P10. Jeffrey Smith will be 11th, followed by Sylvain Gallant in 12th overall. Malcolm Foster will be 13th, Patrick Calgill 14th, Austin Bartlett Chase will be 15th, and Michael Blaze will round out the rest of your starting grid. 35 minutes, a standing start. Joey, we are ready to get racing here for this new season of the Precision Racing League.
We are indeed ready, and in a couple seconds, a couple minutes time, all of these cars are going to charge down into turn 1, and that's when the fun's going to start. 35 minutes of racing, same race distance as the official races this week. But as we mentioned, there's that 30% fuel limit. There may be a pit stop, and the incident counts are basically what you'd expect from a PRL race. 13x gets you a penalty, 17x gets you kicked out.
Exactly. We'll be talking a lot about the draft train over the course of this race. Going to be talking a lot about everything else as we see the lights start to come up here. 3 lights, 5 lights, and there goes the green. We are racing at Monza. It's a very good start there for Ryan Kings. Michael Chase starting to fall into line there behind Bradley Holly. Going to get a little bit of a pressure there from Mark Kalin as they dive their way down into turn 1 for the first time. Everyone trying to sort themselves out as we look back through the rest of the order as they run, and I think just about everybody's been able to get through that first couple of corners okay. Oh, but that's Ryan Kings. Ryan Kings off in front. He misjudged the corner and comes back out.
Kings clipped the grass on the exit of 2 there and the entry of 3, and there's no saving it once you get on the grass there. He's lucky he didn't hit the wall. He's lucky he was going so slow after that braking zone, but that is going to be heartbreaking for King all the way to the back of the field from pole. He's got plenty of time to make up for it, but that is not ideal at all.
No, it is certainly suboptimal there for the 43, and you can see him getting a little bit aggressive there down to the inside, trying to get on Malcolm Foster. But we've got to jump your attention up to the front of the field because here comes the battle for P1. Michael Chase, Bradley Holly, Mark Kalin as they run across the start-finish line, and that is something we are going to see a lot of here today. Some of these former stock car drivers getting a little bit of their bump draft on.
Michael Chase did reasonably well there to not overcook the corner. That's very easy to do when you're getting pushed, when you have so much extra speed compared to what you've been doing in practice and qualifying because of that push. It's easy to, and he clips the curb, and Michael Chase, the leader's cursed.
Yes, he is, and I'm also seeing a little bit of off there in the back. I think Austin Bartlett Chase and Rodrigo Michelin have both had problems as well. That tricky turn 3-4 section proving very, very difficult for these drivers. It's throwing absolutely everybody for a loop.
And right now, if I'm Bradley Holly, I'm starting to get worried. The last 2 laps, the leader's thrown it away. Here's Michael Chase. That's just so easy to do. Clip the curb, clip a little bit of the grass on exit while the car's rotating. And you see Bartlett Chase and Michelin as well in the background. It's just chaos in the opening laps here.
Yeah, it really is a lot of chaos. Getting a little bit calmer up front, but we definitely have Ian Cabana and Ryan Scott there trying to close in on the back of Bradley Holly and Mark Kalin as they run down into the first sequence of corners. Waiting to see if we're going to see anything happen. David Van Roy looks like he has pulled down pit lane, probably trying to get a little bit of repairs here as we ride on board with Mark Kalin down the long back straightaway, trying to pick up a little bit of a draft here from Bradley Holly.
You can see the smile on Mark Kalin's face. This is exactly what he wants to be happening. It's him and Holly. They know each other. They can work together. They can try and pull away from the rest of the field. You'll see Kalin give Holly a pretty big bump here, I'm sure. And you might be wondering, why are they not going to go for the pass this early? And this is what we're going to see for the next 30 minutes probably. You're probably not going to see racing for the win until the last couple minutes of the race because, frankly, there's no reason to. You might as well just stay in line, make sure you're all stuck together, make sure you'll have a shot at the end of the race, and don't do anything too aggressive, don't do anything stupid, and slow each other down.
Exactly, and here comes your former leader, your pole sitter, Ryan Kings, on a charge up through the field, trying to get by Jeffrey Smith down into turn 1, able to get that move done. He's now going to set his eyes up ahead of him at Charles Sumner, and Joey, so easy here to get a little bit of what we call the red mist, to get a little bit over aggressive. You saw him sliding that car there out of the corner. That is the number 99 there, Michael Blaze, getting a little bit sideways as well.
Yeah, Michael Blaze, those tires might be blazing hot, and that's easy to do. At a track as short as this, it's something we talk about more on the oval side, where if you start to overheat the tires, it's almost impossible to cool them down, especially when you're getting as aggressive as Blaze and Kings have been getting. But what they've both got to do is they've got to slow things down a little bit, make sure those tires cool down, and make sure they're not slipping and sliding out of every corner, because that's what's killing their exit onto the 2 long straights here.
It very much is. Looked like Blaze, though, is going to have a little bit of action in front of him. Tries to get the move on Jeffrey Smith. He's going to move that red and white MX-5 down to the inside. Smith goes defensive, though, and there's contact there between the two. A little bit of side contact, and that's going to be Jeffrey Smith hard into the outside Armco.
Yeah, I don't know if Jeffrey Smith was making that corner either way, but it certainly didn't help that he closed a little bit in on Blaze there and unfortunately couldn't avoid that outside wall. It's not going to be heavy damage for Smith, but it's still going to be damage, and it's going to be all the way back to the back of the train for him.
Yes, it is, as we focus on that replay there. I think that was a little bit of fault on either side. I'd call that a little bit of a racing deal as I look at it again, Joey.
Yeah, there's a little bit of a shove from Blaze, but I honestly don't think the 719 was making that corner either way, so it's a bad situation for both of them. Smith keeps going, or Smith doesn't keep going, Blaze keeps going. Smith has kept going. He's only 13.6 seconds back. If he stays in it, might have a shot at a top 10 here, but here we see close up. He turns in, just that little bit of bumper-to-bumper contact. I think that might have been that little bit of extra speed that put the 719 into the wall.
Yeah, just that little bit extra seat, and you see him there working at the wheel, trying to catch it as we focus back here on Michael Chase. He's trying to gain back on Jeffrey Smith right now as they run. This is now the battle for 11th place, and as things start to sort themselves out a little bit here as they run, we've got to start talking about the gaps that are starting to form over the course of the field. 1 second about the effective draft range here that you've got to worry about, and you can see that big gap up ahead in the road of the 719 of Jeffrey Smith. He's got about 8 seconds to try to gain back in on the rest of the field.
Yeah, these guys back here, I hate to say it, but I think they might have lost quite a bit of hope. They're just here to pick up as many points as they can because this is a full season championship and every position counts for a point. So you want to pick up as many pieces as you can, but the real conversation is with Ryan Kings, Grimes, Blaze, those guys. They're only 1.5 to 2 seconds behind the lead pack. So they can make up the time if they work together, but these guys, all power to them, they're probably just circulating for the best possible finish they can get. I don't think they're going to be in the fight for the win, unfortunately.
Yeah, it's going to be a little bit tricky for them to catch up, but as you can see, they are still pushing. A little bit of a bump draft there in the back from your leaders. That is going to be Bradley Holly and Mark Kalin. That bump draft, we've seen it many, many times, whether we were at the Red Bull Ring or Hockenheim, that the bump draft is very effective in these cars, and that's a little bit of that stock car knowledge that we're used to seeing with Bradley Holly and Mark Kalin coming into play here.
And that stock car knowledge will teach them something that's also true in this car as well as it is in the Cup cars and the Xfinity cars and all of that. You got to push straight. If you push someone on their corner, it's not going to be an instant spin because these cars are only topping out at about 100. You can definitely save a sort of wiggle, but it is very easy to turn someone when you push someone at an awkward angle on the left or the right rear, and you got to make sure to push straight. And also, you don't want to push the pusher. You can't do that at Daytona or Talladega either without risking a wreck, and that is also smart in this scenario as well. Stick with those two-car tandems and just try and survive.
Yes, it is. Very good onto the blinders. There was the 774 of Ian Cabana. Looking like he may be in position to give a little bit of a bump draft here to Mark Kalin as they work their way on the main straightaway. About 27 minutes left to go here in this MX-5 race as they work their way along. A little bit of side-by-side there in the back as things go, and a little bit of side-by-side there up in the front. Is Ian Cabana tired of waiting around on Mark Kalin? He's going to get that move done into turn one.
Up in second now. It hasn't really changed anything. Bradley Holly still leading the way, but maybe Cabana wants to lead. Kalin's been very happy to push Holly here, but maybe Ian Cabana, he's been aggressive enough to pass for second. Maybe he wants to pass for first, and maybe he wants to be the leader in this train. We'll have to see if he can catch up to Holly, and will Kalin help him back, or will he pass him back for second coming up into turn one?
Well, we're going to have to see here as they run. It'll really be a decision as they continue to work their way around. And remember here that the bonus points available are for pole, fastest lap, and 3 incidents or less. No bonus point available for leading a lap. So leading a lap here at this point is more of a pride indicator and putting yourself into position to be able to claim that victory as you run.
Kalin took a little bit of a peek, didn't go for it. Further back, almost 3 wide with Grimes, Cowgill, and Foster. Grimes way later in the brakes than Cowgill, easily able to turn in. The 99 of Blaze in trouble again. That's going to make this dicey here through turn 3. Side by side, don't want to lose it. Oh, Cowgill's got to get out of the throttle there. And that is dicey stuff on the exit of turn 3, but Blaze does manage to hang on, but he's got a lot more company than he did a few corners ago.
Yes, he does. He's going to hold on to that position, and the driver looking a little bit out of sorts. There is going to be Christopher Grimes down to the inside. He's got to try to find a lane to slot into here. He's going to be very late on the binders, and that's going to be contact with the 99. It's just a little bit of a, hey, how are you? But that's going to set up a 3 wide as they come down out of the Parabolica, start to sort themselves out there a little bit. Almost a little bit of Noah's Ark action as they go down. Now Michael Blaze going to be getting into line here behind the 31 as they start to poke their nose out. A little bit of movement back in the back there from Malcolm Foster as he tries to pick a lane, but it's going to be a side-by-side battle between Blaze and Cowgill. Who's going to have the better advantage? A little bit of how you doing there, and it's going to be Blaze that holds out on top.
Yeah, definitely aggressive. Blaze wants to lead this little train, and you saw in the bottom of your screen in the battle for first, Ryan Kings has joined the fight for the lead. He's managed to catch up basically on his own. Just that braking prowess in one and the Parabolica. Somehow he has managed to catch up into that top 5, and it's now well and truly a 6-car battle for the lead. Then behind it's a 4-car battle for the rest of the top 10 as Blaze manages to stick in front into the Parabolica that time. A little bit less controversial, a little bit less argy-bargy.
Indeed it is, and it continues to be Blaze leading that pack here, but we're seeing a little bit of aggression coming out of these drivers. Cowgill and Foster thinking about little bits of a move. That is going to be Grimes there in the back trying to take a peek out as well, but we focus here on the battle for the lead. No, we've got to focus back in on that battle because we're about to be 3 wide going down into the first corner. That's going to be Blaze, Cowgill, Foster. Somehow they sorted that out and got him through the corner single file.
Yeah, Foster went for the 3 wide, and then I think he said, we don't need to be doing this right now, and he did a little bit early. Well done on him for backing out, but Cowgill is not backing out at all. He wants to lead this little train. He gets to the outside of Blaze, But Blaze has not been very kind to Patrick Cowgill over the course of these last couple laps, and Cowgills might be a little bit worried into breaking into the Parabolica, but no, Blaze keeps it to the inside. No shoving this time, but Blaze continues to lead this train, and he's proven very, very tough to pass.
Yes, he is. We jump you back up to the battle for the lead. Here is a little bit of a bump draft coming into play from Mark Kalin to Bradley Holly. That's going to power them by on Ian Cabana. We head down into the corner, though, a whole gaggle of cars. That's going to be Ian Cabana that's forced out a little bit wide, and that is Ryan Kings that's able to force his way back up forward. A little bit of contact there between Kalin and Cabana. That's going to be Holly way out front, and Ryan Kings getting involved into it as they run 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Your top 6 running very, very close. Ryan Scott poking his way this way and that right now on Ryan Kings.
And you know Kings really, really wants that lead back. He's probably saying, that was my lead before I threw it away on lap 1. And he has that chance now. It's been a fantastic drive through the field in these first 10 minutes of the race. And he can see it. It's a little bit up the road. He's got to make sure not to fight too hard with Cabana and Kalin and let Bradley Holly run away. 0.8 of a second's pretty big, but they can catch back up if they work as a team here. But Kings doesn't seem interested in working as a team. I think he's going to take both of them here in the braking zone.
I think he is, and Cabana not necessarily wanting to give the buff draft there to Kalin. Kalin trying to hold off a little bit, and that's going to be Kings up and on through. And I think that was some aggressive move there from Ryan Kings, as well as a little bit of hold back there from Mark Kalin. Kalin knows this is a long race. We're not over halfway yet, and he wants to see the end of it.
And now he's going to have to work with Kings, push him forward. They've already caught Bradley Holly by a 10th, so he's very much in touching distance. He hasn't managed to run away. He probably wishes he did run away, but the race is still on for all of these guys in the top 5. Charles Sumner in the back has lost it a little bit, but it was well and truly a 5-car battle. So we've got a replay here with the 2 chases.
Oh, getting into the side of each other there and going down into the corner. That was Michael Blaze as well, who you saw get really pushed off there, and that is going to be a hardship there to them. A little bit of a bump draft now on the main straightaway here. Mark Kalin giving it to Ryan Kings as they dive their way down into the corner right now. That's Kalin a little bit offline. Kings definitely able to carry that momentum well, and that gap that was up to about 0.8 of a second, it's under 0.3 now as they come onto the backstretch.
Kings getting super loose on the exit of 3 again. He's going to be overcooking his tires if he does that too often, but he really wants the lead, and you can see it even from the outside here. Drafts all the way up to the back of Holly into the parabolic. He peeks his nose to the inside, kind of showing him that he's there. And I don't think Kings is going to be doing what Kalin was doing. I think the second he gets to the back of Bradley Holly, he is going to the lead, and I don't think anybody's going to stop him.
No, I don't think they are as well. Thought for a second there that the 62 of Mark Kalin was going to be giving a little bit of a bump draft, but it didn't play out that way. He instead is going to try to draft up behind Bradley Holly and get a little bit of helping of that toe. Ryan Kings doesn't look like he wants to give too much of a fight there. He's going to slot back into line ahead of Ian Cabana as they go down now into turn 1. Everything single file here through this tricky little section of corners, bringing their way back out onto the line. Oh, what an excellent exit there of the corner from Mark Kalin. He's actually got to check a little bit of his momentum because he carried so much there, and I think Bradley Holly is going to let him on by.
Yeah, no reason to fight side by side, and they both know that. They've been working together very well so far in this race, but Kings is going to take advantage here of Bradley Holly's niceness. Going to throw it to the inside in the Parabolica. Very well held on the inside by Kings, and does Mark Kalin go with him, or does he go with Holly down the back straight? I think he's going to go with Holly, and that's going to be immensely frustrating for Kings.
Yes, it is. Kings just wants a buddy here to be able to get that draft from, and there he's going to slot back into line. And Cabana now maybe taking a little bit of a look, as is Bradley Holly. Holly's going to stay in line, but Cabana's not. Cabana slots himself there ahead of Ryan Kings, but Kings doesn't give up the ghost, tries to fight it back around the outside, and that is going to be Kings staying up into 3rd place. But they've got to be careful with that, Joey. That gap expanding a little bit up to Bradley Holly, about 0.5 of a second.
Yeah, we've seen it expand to about 0.8, 0.9 of a second, and that's really when you start to lose the cars ahead. So they're not in bad shape at the moment, but if they keep racing side by side like that, Cabana was actually much later on the brakes, but Kings was just so much faster through the center of the corner, and that just ended up slowing them both down. So I think they'll both probably learn from that, you don't really need to be racing each other at the moment. There's still 18 minutes left in the race, and there's plenty of time to start moving your way forward later in the race, not right now. Don't slow each other down. Don't ruin your whole race for one position for fourth.
Exactly, and as you said, there's still 18 minutes left to go in this race, which means that we will see pit stops coming into effect here probably within about the next 8 minutes or so. That's when we tend to normally see them fire off, and I've got to wonder here, as we maybe get into a little bit of strategy battles, that you're probably going to want to be pitting in a group here. As you've mentioned before, Joey, very similar to Daytona or Talladega in the way that you run. I do not think you're going to want to be coming out in clean air by yourself. You want to be coming in a draft train.
Yeah, how often do we say that on a road course? You want to pit with a group. Normally when you pit on a road course, you want clean air. You want no traffic at all. But here, it is as close as an oval can get on a road course. So you do really want to pit with your buddies. I think Kalen and Holly will probably go in together. And frankly, there's no real reason for the top six not to all come in together. I don't think anybody's going to take tires. They're just going to take fuel, so there's not really going to be an undercut or an overcut. You just want to stay in the pack, and you want to maximize your speed by helping everybody else out.
And speaking of trying to help everybody else out, big bump draft there from Bradley Holly to Mark Kalen. We saw a little bit of a peek in the back there from Ryan Scott trying to get around in Cabana, but nothing doing necessarily. Good exit there out of the corner, though, for Ryan Kings. He is going to be right up behind that number 184 of Bradley Holly. Is he going to try to send a little bit of a move here into the Parabolica, or is Ryan Kings going to be a little bit more patient? Let's wait to see as they come down into the braking zone. Kings jinks out to the inside. He's going to think about it. He's going to go for it. Holly, it looks like, is going to halfway let him have it, but Kings is going to have to slot up in front of him. That's going to compromise both of their exits. There is going to be the position for Ryan Kings.
He decided very late to go for that. I didn't think he was going to. He was staying in line. He was taking the draft of Holly, but at the very last second, he decided to go to the inside. He's been so good through the Parabolica, which is great for Holly. You don't have to worry about him fading up and hitting you. But here goes Kings to the lead. He gets Kalen. Kalen washes out to the outside, and it's taken him 19 minutes, but Ryan Kings has finally gotten back to the place where he started.
And let's talk about just how impressive of a run that is for Ryan Kings. I mean, he was down all the way through the field, and for him to be able to come back here at this point and to be back into the lead of the race, nothing short of astounding.
I think the biggest part was that he did it so early. He did it when everybody was evenly spaced out, when there were no real spread out packs, when he could just pass one car after the next, after the next, after the next, and eventually make it up to the cars that were fighting for the lead. If he did the same thing right now, he'd be out of luck. He'd be racing for 7th at best, but it's all worked out in Ryan King's favor. But unfortunately, Kalen and Holly are passing him as soon as he got the lead back.
Yes, they are, and doing that with a little bit of help of the bump draft, but King's trying to stay in there along the outside right now, running that car to the outside, seeing if he can push a little bit on Mark Kalen, and Kalen's going to hold on tough there as they run a little bit of dab of the brakes as they come back out onto the backstretch. Kings will be able to hold on to the lead ahead of Kalen, ahead of Holly. Ian Cabana now starting to get very interested in their behinds.
Kings is so good on the brakes through turn one. I thought there was no chance he'd be able to get the lead back. I thought Kalen and Holly were freight training their way forward there, but no, Kings is not letting them have this lead, and here we go again through the Parabolica. He's just so good. Look at how planted that car is on the bottom there. He has that thing absolutely nailed down to the ground, and he jinked into the pits. I thought he was coming, and so did Cabana, but not quite yet.
Yeah, you and I thought the same thing there, but Cabana doing the heads-up play there, trying to get a little bit of a draft from the drivers up around him, seeing what he can do. Ryan Scott going to hold in behind. We're going to be side by side going down into the corner there. Kings trying to challenge a little bit on Bradley Holly as they run. They're going to find themselves back in single file order with Ryan Kings back into third. Mark Kalen leading the way now ahead of Bradley Holly. And I got to say here, I'm liking what I'm seeing out of the back of this field. Cabana, Scott, Sumner, as they run, they've got some heads-up play. They're probably saving a little bit of fuel as they go along and maybe saving their stuff for later on in this race.
Yeah, that's basically all you can do when you're someone like Charles Sumner. You're just hanging on to the back of the pack here. It doesn't seem like he has the speed to move up here, but just by Staying back there, save a little bit, and here comes everybody at the last second. Kalen wasn't it? Oh! Collided. Kings is back out on the track.
Oh, and that was Cabana that got into the back of him there. Ryan Kings is able to turn the car back around and get back down pit lane, but not before suffering a massive penalty there. That's going to find him all the way back behind Charles Sumner as they come in. He's going to have more work to do as all drivers come in to get their pit stop. As we anticipate here, no fuel, no tires, rather, just fuel for these drivers. There, Kings comes to rest in his box. Thought for a second he may have missed the stall.
You called it a massive penalty, but I'm amazed that he managed to get back in the pit lane. He's going to be at the back of this train here, but I don't think he's lost enough time to lose them. I think he's going to be able to get out behind Charles Sumner, and he should be able to keep moving his way forward, but I thought he was dead out of luck. I thought he was back out on the racetrack. He was going to have to drive around again. I'm amazed that he managed to bring it back down pit road.
I am as well, but look at these gaps starting to play themselves out here as they come back down out of pit lane. There are some pretty sizable margins as they run. Check in on our leader right now, by the way. That is Christopher Grimes, Austin Bartlett Chase, and Sylvian Gallant, who opted not to come down pit lane. Looks like Grimes is going to come in. I think Austin Bartlett Chase will continue on. Actually, we're waiting here to see with them who is going to come in and who is going to stay out. A little bit of gamesmanship there coming down pit lane.
A little bit of a jump from Gallant, but it worked out for him. So Mark Kalen's going to take over the lead of the race. And the gap with Kings, he's about 3 seconds behind Sumner. So that's way bigger than he would have liked. And this has really strung things out. Kalen and Holly are essentially the only two cars in the fight for the win now, as Grimes exits the pits and Cabana is in bad shape as well. He's gone a lap down. He got a penalty for hitting Kings.
Oh my goodness, there Ian Cabana getting that penalty. Not good there for him at all. He will be a lap down as they run. You hate to see that there for the 774 having such a great run here today. But the battle we've got to focus back in on, it is Mark Kalen and Bradley Holly, these two old sparring partners, back in it again with only about 11 minutes left to go in this race. And it really does look like here at this point that it is probably a two-car race. As you mentioned earlier there, Joey, Ryan Scott about 3 seconds behind Charles Sumner, looks to be about 3.5 seconds behind this battle. It's a lot of ground to make up here and not a lot of time to do it.
Yeah, this is absolutely perfect for Kalen and Holly. They can work together, they can fight each other, and they don't have to worry about those 4 other drivers that were with them earlier. But if I'm Ryan Scott here, I'm really hoping that I can catch up to the back of Cabana and start to work with him to move my way forward. Because that 3-second gap, that's not make-upable on your own when you've got 2 cars working together. And that's not great for Sumner or for Kings, frankly, either, because they don't have any help back there. Cowgill might be able to help Kings a little bit, but it's going to be very, very difficult to make up 3 whole seconds if you don't have any other cars to help you out.
Yes, it is. We keep our eyes focused, though, on the battle for the lead. Ooh, a little bit of a wide run there through Parabolica for Mark Kalen. I think Bradley Holly had to check up his momentum as they came down through the corner there, as he didn't necessarily want to leave. He's going to give a little bit of a bump draft here now to Mark Kalen up ahead of him as they run. Giving that little bit of a bump draft, just trying to pull themselves away from Ryan Scott as much as possible, build that 3.5 second gap, so this really becomes a 2-car race.
And in a couple minutes time, I think Holly's probably going to start testing things out, probably start to test ways he's going to win the race. You can stick with Mark Kalen all you want, and that's great, but Holly doesn't want to finish second. He wants to win the race. So he's got to figure out, where can I actually get by Kalen? Do I have to wait to the Parabolica on the last lap? Do I have to wait until the front straight? He's got to figure out how he can get by without letting Kalen get back by before the lap is over.
Yeah, exactly. And that testing period here is very, very crucial. You want to figure out where the drivers are going to make errors, where they're going to be most susceptible to a little bit of an attack here. Holly looks like he's able to get good speed out of the Parabolica. Again, giving a bump draft here to the Whataback Racing driver up ahead of him in the number 62 machine. Going down here, a little bit of fidgety movement. You want to be careful about that, Joey. You mentioned earlier, you don't want to be moving around a lot when you're giving a bump draft.
Yeah, you don't want the car in front to be moving around a lot. You don't want the car behind to be moving around a lot either. That was a little bit worrying. Holly was a little bit less straight than you'd want to be in a bump draft, but these guys are both experienced. They both know what they're doing, and I wouldn't be too worried if I had Bradley Holly as my pusher behind me, and I wouldn't be too worried about pushing Mark Kalin either. But you see further back, Sumner, Cowgill, and Kings, they formed their own little three-car pack. Kings is trying to run away, but if these three can work together, they might be in the conversation for the podium because Ryan Scott's got no help. So they might not be in the fight for the lead anymore, but podium's still possible for the rest of those guys.
It is very possible. We'll have to see how that battle continues to shape itself out. As you mentioned earlier, King's looking to be very, very good onto the brakes into the two heavy braking zones of the Parabolica and into turn one. So that may be a little bit of help for him as they go. Up front continues to be Kalin and Holly. Holly not really looking in any rush to get himself forward. I wonder if he's doing a little bit of that backwards math, like you kind of mentioned, sizing everything up, trying to see where the position is going to be and try to push his way by it.
Oh, I just saw trouble on the side of our timing screen. I think Ryan Scott might have gotten into a little bit of trouble. And yes, he has. He's down in the fight with the rest of these guys. I don't think it was deliberate. I don't think he was trying to form up a pack to catch the leaders. I think Ryan Scott has just made a horrific mistake, and that's going to be the podium off for him and the podium on for Ryan Kings.
Yes, it is, but a side-by-side battle right now for P4 between Scott and Cowgill going into the Parabolica. That's going to blunt a little bit of momentum there, I think, for both drivers as they run. Charles Sumner holding on, trying to get a little bit of a fifth place if he can. Thinks about maybe making it 3 wide down the main straightaway. Just under 7 minutes to go. Definitely trying to size up. Here is Sumner as they run.
Sumner very smartly doesn't send it 3 wide. He's just going to stick behind these two and hope that they can charge their way forward. It's now a 2.7-second gap up to Ryan Kings. Great for Ryan Kings, not so great for these two as they continue to fight side by side through 3. That's just going to slow them both down, and that might have just been a 1x for Ryan Scott there. He's got to make sure he doesn't get too many of those. There may be 6 minutes left in the race, but if you're teetering on that 10-11 mark, it's very easy to get over that limit before you even realize it.
Yes, it is, and drivers here have to be especially careful. Maybe a little bit of a bump there to Cowgill from Charles Sumner. Cowgill breaks a little bit earlier into Parabolica, but that is necessitated by him being down on the inside line. These two drivers continuing to go side by side. Scott there in the red, number 2, and that is going to be Cowgill in the white and black, number 31. They continue to fight this out side by side, losing buckets of time to Ryan Kings, who is absolutely checked out there in front of him. Looks like here the Cowgill's got a little bit of a better run going down into 1, but sweeping around the outside is Ryan Scott trying to hold that momentum.
Yeah, just to give you an idea of how slow this is, the last lap times for these 3 were in the 1-minute range. They were over a minute. Meanwhile, Ryan Kings is doing 58 threes, so fighting like this is not helping them whatsoever. And 4.7 seconds with 5 minutes left in the race. I think this has become a race for 4th. But it's a race for 4th, so I guess you can run each other as hard as you want to because you're not working with each other to fight for 3rd. Might as well be as aggressive as you want, I guess, as long as you're not hitting each other.
That's a very good point as they continue to fighting it out side by side. There is absolutely no quit in any of these 3 drivers. Cowgill and Scott continue to run there side by side. Looks like Charles Sumner is going to pick the lane there of Patrick Cowgill to see if he's going to be able to pull up alongside, maybe put Scott down 2 positions as they dive down now into the corner. Cowgill has it nice and clear. It's now going to be a battle between Ryan Scott and Charles Sumner. The number 98 eking his way ahead. That is going to be a top 5 as they run for Charles Sumner.
Now he's got 4 more minutes to make sure Patrick Cowgill doesn't start running away. Cowgill and Sumner haven't really been racing each other for the majority of the race. They were in 2 different packs, and now we get to see who's quicker, Cowgill or Sumner. Can they continue to work together? Can Ryan Scott help Sumner out to chase him? He's going to have to. Oh, he's much later on the brakes than Sumner through the Parabolica. But he had to slow down just a little bit there. He almost ran into the back of Sumner. He had to slow his momentum up, and that's going to slow his momentum up down the front straight as well.
Yeah, Yes, it is. And is that going to leave him open to attack from behind? It doesn't look like Ryan Scott necessarily able to close in there as they run. Cowgill starting to pull away just a little bit. He's got the gap up to about 0.6 of a second as they get into the braking zone. There you can see him start to pull away, and that's the 99 there. That is a lapped car. I believe that's Michael Blaze that's able to insert himself into the conversation.
Yeah, Blaze 3 laps down, so he doesn't really need to be fighting here. If I were him, I would just be hanging out of the back of this train, but he must have fresher tires or something because he is flying at the moment, and he doesn't seem to be inclined to stick behind this pack. He wants to move his way up to the front of the train. Here he goes to the inside of Sumner. Not going to be late enough on the brakes, and does he let Ryan Scott by here? He probably should, but no, he's going to continue racing with these guys.
Yeah, he's going to continue up the fight here, and Blue Flag's merely advisory in the Precision Racing League, so he is not entitled necessarily to give that position back as they run. A little bit of communication there between the drivers as they go. That is going to be them coming down now into the corner, but we've got to focus back in on the battle for the lead as they run with only about 2.5 minutes left to go. It is Kalen continues to lead from Holly. That's going to be the 17 of Austin Bartlett Chase up ahead of them. Maybe that can throw a little bit of a wrench into the works here, Joey.
It should be 3 laps to go at the line, so Holly knows that there is not an infinite amount of time here. He's got to start thinking about making the move now. I don't know if they're going to catch Bartlett Chase. He's quite a bit further up the road, and he's not going much slower compared to these guys, so I don't think these two need to worry about him, but Mark Kalin might actually be able to use him to his advantage. He might be further up the road, but he might be able to give him a little bit of extra draft, and it might actually help Mark Kalin more than hurt him, but I don't think it'll play too much of a role here. I think Holly's just waiting for the time to make the move now.
And we've seen this plenty of times out of Bradley Holly, just patiently waiting, patiently sitting back in position, waiting to get the move as he goes. Absolute face of calmness there for Mark Kalin as he runs, a little bit of a smile on his face, a little bit of a laugh as he goes. That is the face of a calm, cool, and collected driver.
He looked into the camera. He knows what's going on. He knows he's cool, calm, and collected, but the only thing he can do, basically, he's a sitting duck here, literally. The only thing he can do is hope that Bradley Holly either makes the move too early or makes the move too late and can't get it done. So it's very much in Bradley Holly's hands here, and all Mark Kalin can do is just be as smooth as he can, don't make any mistakes, and I guess hope it comes to you.
Well, that is what he's going to be hoping for. A little bit of a bump draft going down the main straightaway there. Kalin trying to just hold on as they go. Joey, as you said, 2 laps to go as they cross over the line right now, getting closer and closer behind Austin Bartlett Chase. Is that draft there from the slower lapped car going to help out your leader? We don't have too long to wait here. Bradley Holly, the face of determination behind your leader, currently sits in 2nd place. They come to the white flag this time by.
And they are catching Bartlett Chase far faster than I thought they would, but I think he might pull out of the way here. I don't think he's interested in getting in the way. Let's see, does he pull down pit lane here? Does he park it? It doesn't look like he's doing anything at the moment, so that's great for Mark Kalin. He's got a little bit of extra help down the front straight, but here comes Holly.
Here comes Holly, and here comes that move we've been waiting for. White flag in the air, and the move for the lead is put on by the 184 of Bradley Holly. They're going to fight it out as they go down into turn 1. Mark Kalin a little bit late, better on the binders. They're going to be side by side. Austin Bartlett Chase trying to get it. That's going to be Bradley Holly able to eke his way ahead as they come down onto the backstretch. Who's going to be able to have it? That is going to be Austin Bartlett Chase getting off to the side there. Mark Kalin doing a little bit of weaving this way, and that is he going to be able to close down now as they go into the Parabolica. Here comes Kalin. He is going to send a move to the outside here, going to try to force Holly down onto a more narrow line. Later on the binders is Mark Kalin, but Holly able to slice his way ahead. There they go down now out of the exit of the Parabolica. The number 62 trying to get every little bit of draft that he can as they go. He's going to move out to the outside. Who's it going to be at the line? It's going to be Holly with a little bit of a love tap and a big smile from the 184.
That was perfectly timed from Holly and then perfectly defended down the back straight. Kalin got that run back after Holly passed him in 1 and going around the outside of the Parabolica. That is as difficult of a task as you can get, and that was just fantastic by Bradley Holly, and you could tell he was planning that a little bit.
Oh, for sure, planning that out as we watch the drivers and the rest of the pack coming across the line there, focusing in on Roy. David Van Roy, as he crosses over right now, he will come home in 8th place.
And the 52 of Gallant, that's going to be the last car on the lead lap, but Gallant survived to the end. He stayed on the lead lap in a 9th place in a full season championship. Still a pretty good result. Top 10, that's what you want. Gallant brings it home. Only 2 cars out, Chase and Doyle. So there was a little bit of attrition, but it wasn't complete attrition. There were a couple cars a couple laps down, but for the most part, very clean, as expected from the PRL.
Exactly, and we see our leaders coming back down pit lane right now. Let's run you through those final finishing orders. It was Bradley Holly able to take the victory here, followed by Mark Kalin and Ryan Kings, who just couldn't quite get that pass done after the pit stops. Patrick Calgill and Charles Sumner round out your top 5. Ryan Scott was in P6, followed by Malcolm Foster and David Van Roy, with Sylvian Gallant rounding out the top 9 and the last driver on the lead lap. It was Austin Bartlett Chase 1 lap down, with Ian Cabana and Jeffrey Smith, with Christopher Grimes also 1 lap down. Michael Blaze was 3 laps down, as was Rodrigo Michelin, with Michael Chase and Simon Doyle as they go. And we are able here to talk to a couple of our drivers. First up, it is going to be your winner, Bradley Holly. And Bradley, another season, another victory. And I've got to say, we saw a big smile from you there at the end. That looked like a whole bunch of fun with Mark.
Yeah, absolutely. It definitely was a lot of fun. His teammate, so I had to be a little bit gentler around him so I didn't hurt him or me at the same time.
Well, talk to me about how long that planning for the move was, how long it was to really get that going. I mean, it looked like pretty much since after you came out of the pit stops, you were just planning that move.
Yeah, it definitely was. And then I realized that the lap car was within drafting range. So given how long it took to suck up, that I had to make the move on the front stretch and kind of pinch Mark down to keep the draft in my favor and kind of get the run going into turn 1.
Well, you did it well, my friend. And as we look ahead on the schedule, we head to Brands Hatch, another short circuit, the Indy circuit next time. Probably going to be a little bit more difficult to overtake, I'd have to imagine. Is that going to change your preparation in the week?
Oh, definitely, for sure. You got to practice just to be fast sometimes. And with the competition that we have in the 5 series, definitely need to practice to try to stay ahead of the game.
Well, we wish you all the luck in the world when we get out there, Bradley, and congratulations again on taking the first victory of the season.
Thank you very much.
All right, well, that was your victor, Bradley Holly, and now, Joey, I believe you've been able to catch up with P2, Mark Kalin.
Yeah, Mark Kalin, unfortunately, in a 2-car battle, somebody's got to come up short, and it was a heck of a battle between you and Brad, but what were you thinking in those last couple laps? Did you think you were a sitting duck, or did you have a plan to fight back?
No, I knew last lap move was coming. I wasn't sure if he was going to wait till the last turn or into the first turn. Honestly, it surprised me a little bit that he was going to go into the first turn like that. And I tried to keep the inside lane, but he was using first gear in turn 1, and I was using second gear through that whole section. So he had the better run out of the exit of turn 1. So ultimately, that's what kind of did it in. And then I tried to go for an over/under move in the last turn, and it just didn't quite get the run I needed. It was almost there, but it was a ton of fun.
When you were racing with that 6-car pack a little bit earlier, you lost all those guys after the pit stops. Were you happy to see all those guys fall by the wayside, or did you want a little bit extra help in the fight with Brad? Honestly,
I was a little disappointed to see Ryan get punted right there at the pit entrance. It sucks to see that. Obviously, Ian didn't mean to do that, but no, honestly, I wanted everyone to be there at the end because this style of racing is fun for me. So I wanted more cars around just to battle more people, so it would have made things more interesting. But I mean, I'm totally happy with this result, and you know, moving forward, we'll try and keep that that momentum going.
Well, congratulations, Mark Kalin, on your second place finish. And next week, road course bull ring at Brands Hatch. Maybe we'll do one better.
Yeah, sounds like a plan to me. I not the quickest at Brands Hatch, but you know, a little practice and I might get there.
All right, that was your second place finisher tonight, the number 62 of Mark Kalin. And looks like that's all we got, DJ. But oh no, Ryan Kings at the very last second. DJ Clark will be talking to Ryan Kings, our third place finisher at the end of it all.
Yes, I will. And Ryan, I've got no other way to describe that race than a little bit of a yo-yo there for you, up and down through the field after qualifying on pole. That was an incredible run to be able to catch back up to the leaders before the pit stops.
Thank you very much. It didn't go exactly as I hoped it would. I feel like I kind of choked to start there with just the nerves of a new season, but I'm glad I got third at least.
Talk to me a little bit about your mentality going into the pit stops. I mean, getting yourself back up there, it looked like you were just absolutely pushing to try to get back into that P1 position and not holding back at all. Was that really what you were feeling?
Yeah, on that track, the fuel saving isn't too big, even in the draft. I feel like the fuel strategy wasn't as important, so I just needed the track position and get as close as I could. And then when I got that close, unfortunately, there was the incident at the pit entry. That put me back a bit further.
Well, you mentioned a little bit of the nerves coming into the season, all of that. As we look ahead, we go to Brands Hatch on the Indy circuit next time. Obviously, qualifying, I think, going to be a little bit more important there, as the draft isn't going to be as big necessarily. But how you feeling when we head to that British circuit?
I'm looking forward to it. I think circuits like that, a little bit more technical, are more of my strong suit, so I think I could get a good performance there.
Well, Ryan, we wish you all the luck in the world when we get to it, and we can't wait to see you there. All right, that was Ryan Kings, your third place finisher here. And as you said, there we go. Joey, Brands Hatch on the Indy circuit, a bull ring like this one, but not nearly as similar as you may think when you look at it.
Yeah, there's a couple extra corners, which makes it a little bit more difficult, but two of the shortest road courses on iRacing, from Monza Junior to Brands Hatch Indy. It's a very interesting dynamic here. It's very helpful to the drivers who sort of succeed on that sort of shorter style of circuit, but it's going to be a heck of a show no matter what, and I, for one, am certainly looking forward to a return to that Brands Hatch Indy track.
As am I. It's going to be incredible, and we have that to look forward to next week. But for tonight, we are not done, because we head over to Montreal for the GT4 Sprint Series. And Joey, these cars around this circuit, it's going to be a great combination. And as we sort of teased at the start of this, we've got some new flavor to add to the series. The Mercedes-AMG GT4 just added in the last update, and that's going to be a big question mark of how that new GT4 stacks up with the rest of the cars that we already know.
Yeah, it seems like every season iRacing finds a way to add another new GT4 car, and this season it is that new Mercedes GT4 car. Here's the schedule upcoming for the GT4 Sprint Series. We start, of course, here at Circuit Gilles Villeneuve, Watkins Glen with the boot coming up. Lots of great tracks for these GT4 cars. You see Winton on the schedule there. I believe that's going to be replaced with Sandown, one of the newest tracks in the update, but we'll wait and see how the Precision Racing League poll goes for that. But it's going to be a great schedule for these GT4 cars, and finishing all up at Fuji, it's going to be a heck of a show.
It is indeed, and as we put our eyes to the drivers out on track right now, qualifying about 7 minutes down here as they go, still about 13 minutes left to go. It is Sean Campbell that is up at the top of the charts, Owen Watts behind him in second, and Brian Vorse in third. The first one of the new Mercedes-AMG GT4s, well, that's going to be driven by Michael Diaz in fourth, and Jerome Bethune, one of the series organizers, is able to get himself up into the top five, and as soon as I say that, Lyndon Swaby going to bump him out there to take top five positions. A little bit of a bigger field here, Joey, and well, that's going to make for a little bit of side-by-side, a little bit of fun as they run, I'd have to imagine.
Yeah, it always helps to have a big field, especially in these cars. There's always going to be a battle to look for somewhere on the track, and this is the Montreal circuit. It's the same Montreal circuit as F1 this weekend. Very, very different cars, but it's always fun to race on a track the same week as you see it on TV. Jerome Berthiaume here doesn't improve his lap, but he is in that BMW, and that's something we're going to talk about for this entire race, the diversity of cars that makes this GT racing so interesting. P1 right now is a BMW, then 2 McLarens, then 2 Mercedes, then another BMW, and then we can go all the way down the field, and I do believe that all 5 cars are represented here.
Yes, they are, and those 5 cars being the BMW M4 GT4, the McLaren, the new Mercedes AMG, the Aston Martin that was added not too long ago, and the Porsche 718 Cayman also being in the service. So iRacing putting a lot of focus on these GT4s, really trying to bring their numbers up, and it is going to be a very, very good run. But talk to me a little bit about this circuit, Joey. I mean, you know, we tend to think of this as a big power circuit, but these chicanes as they go make things a little bit tricky trying to get through the first 2 sectors.
It's very difficult, and you really have to nail it. It's not technically a street circuit, somewhat controversially, but it's as close to a street circuit as you can get. There's those close walls on every part of the track, but then you get to these weird chicanes where there's a little bit of runoff, there's a lot of grass. Right here you see Sean Campbell very close to the wall. You've got to be very careful on the exit there to not clip the grass as well. And then the braking zone for this corner right here is in a shadow, which makes it especially difficult. Then there's some more grass, then there's some tricky curves that can spit you into the walls. And then, of course, as we go to the other half of the track, there's the infamous Wall of Champions with that chicane onto the front straight. Those high curbs are very, very difficult, and it's very, very easy to get yourself spat into the wall if you hit them wrong, especially in a very heavy GT4 car.
Yes, it is, and that damage, something we're going to be talking about here again, like we saw in the MX-5 series, a 13 incident point limit for a penalty, and then 17 points in automatic disqualification. Very easy to cut some of the chicanes around here, very easy to pick up a little bit of damage on the outside walls, as you mentioned, so that'll be something we're talking about. Also, over the course of this race, this 40-minute race, a little bit longer than the MX-5 series, but we still have a pit stop dictated by fuel. So it's not mandatory that you have to come down pit lane, but unless you're very good on that right foot, we're probably going to see all drivers come on in.
We've seen that happen a few times in the PRL, but it's not something that you would expect. Drivers will definitely have to come down pit road here. They're not going to be able to stretch 40 minutes on fuel at this place with so much straight line speed, so much power required. You're going to be spending quite a bit of fuel here, and there will definitely be one spot guaranteed as we ride on board with Keith Bonilla in the number 8. Very close to that outside wall again. That's another one that's so easy to touch, but you can just see how this track flows very, very well, but the braking zones are almost impossibly difficult because there's no braking markers. You've got to invent your own in half of these corners.
Yes, you do, and especially coming down into that second set of chicanes, very, very tricky. You've got to be applying the brakes a little bit as you start to unload the steering. We've seen it many times, very easy to lock up the front tires here. Now, granted, we do have, whoa, as a car goes stranded across the track, Keith barely avoids it. He may have picked up a little bit of contact there. I couldn't entirely tell, but he's going to carry on as if he didn't make any contact, so good there for Keith as he runs. But as I was saying, very easy to lock up the front tires around this place. There is ABS, there is traction control in these cars, but still, you get a little bit too hard onto that, and it can throw you off.
It can, and it can really mess up your exits as well, especially with these giant curves. If you're in the air, the ABS doesn't know what to do. You can't really get the throttle down if you're bouncing, so you don't want to hit them too hard, while at the same time, you do want to hit them very hard because you want to maximize your speed. So that's the interesting game of driving GT cars at a track like this. How hard can you hit the curbs? How hard can you not hit the curbs? Bonilla appeared to do pretty well there, but unfortunately that extra chicane from Jerome Berthiaume at the end of the lap really slowed it down.
Yes, it did. And he, of course, behind the wheel of one of those new Mercedes AMG GT4s as they run. And I've got to say, iRacing did a fantastic job really recreating the sound of these Mercedes AMGs. It is one of the most distinctive sounds in the world when you hear these things thunder on by. It is just such a great noise.
Is definitely a great noise. And here's another one of those same Mercedes, Lyndon Swaby, really mounting the curb in the first part of the corner, and then the second part of the corner you can put the left side tires over the top of it, and it does help the corner a little bit, but he didn't hit it as hard as he maybe could have through the hairpin. This is extremely difficult to nail. You don't know, do you want to maximize your entry or do you want to maximize your exit down the long back straight? It's always difficult to decide, especially when you're racing other cars, but down this very, very long back straight. Great place for DRS passes in F1, great place for draft passes in these cars, and then down into the heavy braking zone of turns 12 and 13. You do actually have braking markers on the left there, which are helpful. Mount those two curbs, don't hit the wall of champions, and that's the end of the lap. Does Lyndon Swaby improve? He did a 143.7. He's in 5th, and he improves just a little bit, but doesn't improve his position.
And that'll be a little bit of a boon there to him. He'll be happy with that. Again, just to run you through your top 5, it is Owen Watts, Sean Campbell, Michael Diaz, Brian Vorse, and Lyndon Swaby. We watch Michael Diaz right now. He was able to set a personal best through Sector 2 in that number 17. Gonna bring it down here through the final 2 corners. Looks like he's able to get that line out and avoiding the wall of champions, trying to improve on a 143.249. He is gonna cross over the line and not able to improve there, about a half a tenth off. He's going to have about 5 minutes left to go. Plenty of time to re-rack here and try to get back and get a better time.
Yeah, that's always frustrating when you run basically exactly the same lap as you ran before. You're like, why did I spend a minute and a half running exactly the same lap as I did before? But here's Rob Campbell, and this is our first look in the session of the Aston Martin, the second newest of these GT4 cars, and it's like it's been here the whole time. Rob Campbell supremely comfortable in this car, and he's not the highest Aston Martin. Adam Brockway is up in 8th, but a lot of these Astons very, very close to each other in that 8th to 13th range. And I wonder, is that just a coincidence, or is that a little bit of a sign of what some of the less preferred cars are?
Well, we may see, and remember, the Circuit Show Villeneuve, a little bit of an outlier in terms of how these tracks run. It's not necessarily what we're going to be seeing for sure over the course of the rest of the season. And as is often said, horses for courses here. The way the BOP, the way all of the adjustments are made here in iRacing, you tend to see certain cars doing better on certain tracks because of the way the BOP works. Everybody's lap times hopefully going to be relatively similar in each of these different cars. It's just a matter of where they make the speed. Some are going to be a little bit better through the twisty bits. Some are going to have a little bit better top speed. Some are going to be able to be a little bit quicker into the braking zone. Some are going to be able to be better coming on to acceleration. It's all just a matter of what circuits are going to suit each of this wide range of GT4 machinery.
Unfortunately, Campbell failed to improve as well. That looked like a pretty good lap from the cockpit, at least. No noticeable mistakes, but just no time in it for Campbell. And with 3 minutes 30 left to go, he's still got a couple more laps in the tank, but he's got to find quite a bit of time if he wants to catch those leaders in the 142s.
Yes, he is. Another one of those Aston Martins, as you mentioned. This is Adam Brockway here, back in 8th place, trying to improve a little bit on a 143.9. Car looking a little bit squiggly, going down into the second chicane here. Just a little bit fiddly under braking. Looks like he's able to get the power back up under him and keep going. Has a couple of cars in front of him, and it's not going to be necessarily backing him up, but he may get a little bit of the benefit of the draft down that long back straightaway.
Yeah, he definitely wants that. He definitely doesn't want to catch him too early. Through 12 and 13, it was pretty good through there. And then under braking in the hairpin, he'll know how quickly he's catching that little train of cars ahead. 17 gets out of the way. That was very kind to let Adam Brockway through. And he's not especially close to that train ahead, but he will be able to get a little bit of draft off of him. We'll see if it helps him at all. He's just going to have to nail 12 and 13 here, the final chicane, and 143.9's pretty good, fastest Aston Martin, but there's only 1 2/10 for the positions ahead of him, so he could very well advance into the top 5 if he nails this last corner here.
Yes, he could, and he did set a personal best there through the second sector. We see that Aston Martin climbing over the curbs. Let's see if he's able to improve on that 143.936. He is going to cross over the line. That is an improvement there with a 143.810, and that's going to be just enough to move him ahead of Marco Oliveira there and move him up into 7th place.
It's only 1 spot, but 1 spot is more than 0, and I'm sure Adam Brockway is very happy that he'll be starting on the inside of row 4 instead of the outside. And he's got a couple hundredths of a second to catch Jerome Berthiaume here, but Jerome is also on a flyer, and he's also got a very fast Mercedes in front of him to give him a little bit of draft help.
And that's going to be Keith Bonilla there in that number 8. We focused on him a little bit earlier. Jerome now bringing the car through the corners here. He set a personal best on the last lap through the second sector. Didn't look like we saw an improvement there from the first sector, and he's actually going to pull off to the side and call that a day. And with only about 1 minute and 15 left in the session, that is going to be as far up, I think, as the number 6 will get. We focus back on another BMW, though. This is Sean Campbell trying to improve here from second place.
Less than 1/10 of a second up to Watts, so it's definitely catchable, and he's going to have a little bit of help ahead so long as they don't slow him down. Campbell is a very, very quick driver in general and in this first race of the season. He's going to be getting a little bit of draft help down the back straight here, but what's going to be critical is how fast are the 2 ahead of him going to be able to take the final chicane, and he decides that that's too much traffic. He doesn't need that, and Campbell ends this lap, aborts it, and he's not going to improve.
And this is a car to watch here, the number 17 Mercedes AMG, as it is going to be Michael Diaz bringing it through the final corner. He was fastest of anyone through the second sector. Is he going to be able to bump his way up forward? Let's see as he crosses over the line with a 142.998. That is going to be hundredths of a second off of an improvement there. He's got about 0.3 of a second to try to get up to the likes of Owen Watson, Sean Campbell. Here is Blake Ziti, though, as he pilots that Mercedes, the number 50, onto the back straightaway.
Blake Ziti outside of the top 20, but there's still pace in that car. We've seen Blake Ziti have some pretty solid results in the PRL GT series in the past. So through 12 and 13, he was in the 145s on his best, but it's tracking pretty decent as he drives it down to the line. I think Ziti will improve here, but how much will it be by? Oh, he's just that little bit short, 0.04 of a second slower. I thought he was improving, but he just lost a little bit of time through the final corner, and Blake Ziti back in 21st.
Yes, he is. Here comes Nicholas Kariandis now to the line, currently back in 19th. Is that going to be an improvement there from the Porsche driver? Yes, it is. At least if that lap counted, I don't think it did. Matthew Saint-Aubin comes down pit lane here. That's going to be a storyline that we talk about over the course of the race. The tricky pit entrance here can really throw drivers out. Focus back now on Rob Campbell, currently in 10th place, trying to improve a little bit as he goes. Not seeing personal best being set down in the first 2 sectors, but as we've seen, there is plenty of time to be gained or lost in these final 2 corners.
Campbell's last shot here through the final couple of corners looks very similar time-wise to Blake Ziti's last lap, so I wonder, will this be in the 145s? It's not tracking especially well, but to the line, yep, 144.3, not quicker, but a top 10 start. That's pretty darn good for Rob Campbell. He's not going to be disappointed with that.
No, he's not. A big improvement, by the way, for Jay Dennis, who was able to bump his way up into 16th as drivers are pretty much finishing out their laps here. The checkered flag is in the air as we watch the number 26 kind of working his way around. I believe this is just a little bit of a reconnaissance lap, and indeed, he's going to go off there at the tire barriers. And so that is going to be checkered flag in the air. Looks like all drivers have finished their laps. And Joey, we're about ready to get racing here in Montreal at the Circuit Gilles Villeneuve. Just waiting here for qualifying to tick over so we can show you the official starting grid for today's race. And there it is. Starting off in pole position, it'll be Owen Watts, followed by Sean Campbell in that number 26 BMW. The first of the new Mercedes-AMG GT4s will be in third place with Michael Diaz behind the wheel, and Brian Force will be fourth. Lyndon Swaby will be in fifth place with Jerome Berthiaume in sixth. Adam Brockway will be seventh with Marco Oliveira to his outside. Eric Starpoli will be in the ninth, and Rob Campbell rounds out your top 10. Keith Bonilla will be in 11th. Carlos Lopez behind him. In the next row, it's going to be Darren Rutherford into the inside and Evan Jonesy into the outside there. 15th will be Devin Lampke, and 16th, Jay Dennis, with Matthew Saint-Aubin in 17th and Greg Doucette in 18th. 19th will be Felipe Winkler, followed by Nicholas Kariandis with Matthias Arunga there in 21st and Blake Ziti in 22nd. 23rd will be Jeffrey Seabach with Damian Benke in 24th. 25th, Brian Hoskins. 26th, Andrew Venaro. Behind them, it'll be Christian Liziak and Jacob Kruger. And then rounding out your 29 car field, it will be Matt Dinsmore as they run. And Joey here going to be a little bit of a shorter run down into the final corner. We start on the back straightaway. As we said, open setup. A lot more changes you can make to these GT4 cars compared to the MX-5. And that 40% maximum fuel means more than likely everybody's going to be coming down pit lane.
And with an open setup, it always helps to have a team. It always helps to have those drivers you can bounce setup stuff off of. You're not just going to be downloading one of those garage setups that somebody else is selling. Those are good. I always appreciate them, but it's always good to have your own crafted setup. And that's going to be very helpful for the drivers from like Precision Racing Esports, from some of the other teams who have established drivers. They have established people. They have guys who know how to make setups, and that is a great help in a 30-car field like this. You got a lot of people you have to beat. And as you can see, the Precision Racing Esports guys all in the top 10, so they have certainly nailed the setup, even though they're in multiple different cars.
Yes, they have. And as for track conditions, they're 78 degrees Fahrenheit in the ambient air, about 100 degrees Fahrenheit right now, 11 miles an hour of wind, gusting around a little bit. That's going to play into effect when we talk about the draft a little bit, just after 3 o'clock virtual standard time, which more than likely means that we will be getting a little bit warmer as this race goes along. Drivers now bringing the cars back down this long straightaway, trying to do a little bit of weaving as they go. It's going to be Owen Watts taking control of the field as they bring these cars through the final corner, waiting to get in here onto the main straightaway and form up the rest of the field. It's a very, very tight start as they go, waiting for Barney the Flagman to throw the green flag, and there goes the green. We are racing in Montreal. Owen Watts gets a lightning start there. Michael Diaz trying to threaten on Sean Campbell as they go down into turn one. Looks like the first couple of rows of cars aren't able to get through nice in single file and cleanly as we focus down through the rest of the field. Couple of drivers going a little bit wide as they go. Diaz trying to challenge here on Campbell into the first set of chicanes, but it doesn't look like he's going to be able to do anything as we continue to work our way down through the track. It looks like a pretty clean start here, Joey.
It does indeed, and that's always difficult in these first corners. It's difficult to have a clean start, but I see 30 cars there completely cleanly through the first part of the lap. So it's a fantastic start, a fantastic way to start the season. And now the fight is on. Can Campbell stick with Watts? Can everybody sort out their fights here? Felipe Winkler back here in 21st. Oh! Jinxed him. I said it was all clean, and unfortunately Felipe Winkler is the first casualty.
Just getting that power on a little bit too early, and you talked about the perils of that coming off of these chicanes here, that if you get on that power too early, the traction control, the ABS can't save you when you've got wheels into the air. Drivers working their way into the hairpin for the first time. A little bit of side-by-side action there for 10th as we focus on the number 24 of Evan Jonesy up ahead of him. This is some of that side-by-side as there's a big plume of brake smoke there in the back. A lot of drivers going very, very wide. That's the number 13 of Darren Rutherford, as we see him. That may be a little bit of a slowdown penalty, potentially running the corner wide. And there is definitely some carnage around the track. That is Matthias Arenga there in the number 4, who looks like to have had a little bit of a problem.
Both he and Felipe Winkler in the same car, the same team, Team MY. So that is terrible luck. That's a terrible way to start the season for that team, but luckily they've gotten their instance out of the way early, and here's a replay. Here's Felipe Winkler. You'll see him on the exit. It's just, it almost snaps out of nowhere. There wasn't really anything he could do, but with cold tires on lap 1, it's so easy for that to happen, and we've got chaos here as Brian Vorsey from the top 5 has just dropped down to the top 15 in turn 1.
Yes, he has. Not sure there what happened to the number 27, but we are seeing certainly many different incidents starting to fire off here in the opening stages of this race, sort of making up for what was a calm, cool, and collected start at the beginning. Vors now finds himself, that number 27, running back in 15th, as you said. Ooh, running wide there into the second chicane as well. That McLaren, something clearly wrong with it.
Definitely a damaged vehicle, but Brian Vors doing a very nice thing here, getting out of the way, letting everybody go by. He's probably got to bring that thing down pit road, and he will cycle to the back of this train here, and that'll become the back of the field. So that's a disaster for Brian Vors, one of the stronger GT drivers in this field, one of the threats always. Here's Greg Doucette down to the hairpin. Oh, just a little bit too late in the brakes. This was lap 1. This was the smoke you saw in the background of your screen. Surprisingly little carnage for that incident. Everybody mostly got out of the way, but Matthias Arangua, Doucette, oh, he lost it again. That's carnage.
And that's what happened there to Arangua, as you saw him coming back onto the track, realizing there was a car there and immediately trying to get out of the way, it looked like, as they go. Focusing here on the number 14 as he works his way down now into the corner. This is Owen Watts, your leader, being hunted down by Sean Campbell. Michael Diaz keeping this nice and close here for the lead, and that is the fastest lap of the race being set down. This is what happened to Vors. Looks like he just carried too much speed into the corner for the hard point by Delta Motorsport driver.
Oh, and he was fine, but then the field just came flying in, and that's what can happen there. It's almost a blind corner. You can see over to the edge, but when you're not focused and there's a car pointed the wrong way, it's very hard to avoid. So bad luck for Vors. He could have gotten away with that, but fortunately he did not, and that is going to be all the way to the back of the field for Vors. I believe he's in pit lane now. He's going to be in there for a while, and it's going to be a race of picking up the pieces for him, most likely.
Yes, it is, as we focus on a little bit of the mid-pack battle here. Drivers trying to work their way around a little bit. Keith Bonilla trying to see what he can do. Bonilla trying to see if he's going to have anything down into that final set of chicanes. Bonilla doesn't quite look like he's able to get anything, but may be able to send a move here going down into the hairpin. That's going to be a question to be able to be seen. Do you make the pass into the hairpin, or do you try to make the pass going down into the Quebec chicane? That is one of the ultimate questions.
I would probably go for the pass in the hairpin, because while the draft does help in these cars, you can use it to your advantage. It's not to the same extreme as we saw in the previous race tonight in those MX-5s at Monza. So when you can get track position, when you can make the move through the hairpin, you're in pretty good shape down the rest of the straight. So you don't really want to wait especially long, and it's also quite difficult to go side by side with a car through the chicane without making contact with each other. It's possible. You got to be very, very respectful of your fellow driver and hope they do the same.
Yes, you do. Sean Campbell setting another fastest lap of the race as we continue to watch that battle with Bonilla. Bonilla trying to go down to the inside here. The number 8 trying to work his way through, and that is the 24, Eric Jonesy, right away. Adam Brockway able to get a good move done as they run. Here they come now into the first chicane. Is anybody going to be brave enough to have a send down to the inside? No, they're going to stay single file.
And this is the part of the track where you've really just got to stick with the guy ahead. It's hard to make a pass through that first chicane. Through the second chicane, it's possible. If you are close enough to the back, you can send it to the inside. And then through the third chicane, it's very, very difficult to make a move and very, very dicey. But then you get down to your best overtaking spot in the hairpin. But here we see down this, it's almost a back straight. It's sort of the second straight. It is a DRS zone in real life. And you can outbrake someone, as Dennis attempted to do on Bonilla there, but it was not possible. and then down towards the hairpin here. Bonilla chasing Jonesy, Dennis chasing Bonilla. Will there be any moves? I don't think there will. They're a little bit too far back this time.
Yeah, we're not seeing who is that. Is Bonilla very, very aggressive on the binders. They are going down into the hairpin. I like that, but you can see what it cost him on corner exit. A little bit of that give and take going down into the hairpin, and it looks like he lost maybe a 1/10 of a second. He'll be able to gain some time here in the draft, but I think it's going to be a little too late to be able to make a move going down into this final chicane.
And it seems like whatever setup they've got going on, Jonesy's car is much, much quicker in a straight line than Bonilla's is, which is very interesting in the Porsche versus Mercedes battle. But it's not just the cars, they're open setup as well, but down this part of the straight, now suddenly Bonilla's got the speed back. He's all over the back of Jonesy. He gets to the inside, a little bit of door banging, and he's almost through, but they're still side by side. And he gets shoved out of the way. Well, he doesn't get shoved out of the way, but he drives out of the way a little bit too deep in two. And he's going to lose a spot to Lampke, I think, now as well.
Yes, he very well might, and that is going to be Jay Dennis that's able to get the move done there on Bonilla as he went down into the first chicane. A heads-up play there from Jay Dennis to be able to get that, and as you said, here comes Devin Lampke, who sends a move down to the inside of the Mercedes driver, but there is a fight back from Bonilla, able to hold that out through the second chicane. Good run there for him.
That was a little bit too inside for Lampke. He kind of mounted the curb and drove on the grass a little bit. Really, I think, screwed over the ABS and just slowed him down too much. He probably could have had the move made, but just a little bit too far to the inside. But he'll learn on the next lap, next time he gets to Bonilla, not to do that. It's a learning period of the race. We're still only 10 minutes in. Plenty of time left. Bonilla too late on the brakes.
And that may have been a little bit of a helping hand there from Bonilla to the back there of Jay Dennis to send him around. Looked like Dennis just had a little bit of a problem there, and so we'll have to be able to re-rack everything. Dennis will be able to gain on, hopefully, the back of Lopez up ahead of him in that Aston Martin. Let's take another look at that. Was that a little bit of how you doing? I think it may have been.
It was a little bit more than a little bit of how you do it. That was, I think we could certify that as a little bit of a bonk, a little bit of a punt, and yeah, Bonilla he was later on the brakes, but he misjudged that a little bit. It's easy to do, especially at that hairpin, and especially with cars and setups that have different braking distances, and unfortunately, Bonilla's braking distance was a little bit too long for Jay Dennis to stay on the same part of the track as him.
And we've got a nice little side-by-side battle here between Matthew St. Aubin in that McLaren and Andrew Venaro there behind him in the Porsche as they run. I think that may have been a little bit of dust kick up there in front of them from Jacob Kruger as Kruger tries to get everything racked up back under him, starting to separate himself out a little bit more as they run. But these two were side-by-side going down now into the corner, focusing on the way a little bit rest through the field here as we got a little bit of a move. No, it's going to fall back in line.
Yeah, this is Rob Campbell trying to chase down Oliveira, the third of the Precision Racing Esports cars, but you're going to see the same thing we saw on the last lap, but hopefully, unlike what happened with the Mercedes and the Porsche, the two braking distances don't meet in the middle. They don't meet in the middle because Campbell sends it to the inside, and that is a great move. Oliveira gave him a little bit of help getting out of the way, but Rob Campbell, great dive bomb, classic dive boom, textbook stuff, and he's up to 7th.
He is up to 7th, but a little bit of a fight back here, potentially coming from Marco as they come down the back straightaway by the rowing lake, side by side, banging doors a little bit as they run. Who is going to be the latest of the late breakers? It looks like the BMW there is able to get back ahead, and that is going to be position gain. Now maybe a little bit of a fight back as they continue to go side by side, crossing over the start-finish line. Campbell and Oliveira trying to see who is going to be the better breaker now down into turn 1 through the Senna S. Who's it going to be? BMW or Aston Martin? The 93 pulls it out there around the outside, carries the momentum quite beautifully.
I think Oliveira clipped the grass on the outside of 1 there, and that just slowed him down coming into 2 and could not keep the move made on Rob Campbell. And Campbell is now well and truly through, but just like on the last lap, here we go. Oh, this is Nicholas Karangis, and the Wall of Champions has taken its first victim.
Yes, it has. It looks like Nicholas there just caught a little bit too much of that curving, and that sent the car spinning around right into the wall of champions. Nicholas able to get the car back moving around, trying to stay out of the way of his fellow competitors, so kudos there to him for doing that. Now look at this battle as Rob Campbell starting to stretch his legs a little bit, and it's Adam Brockway now putting pressure back into Oliveira there in 8th place.
Can he do the same thing that Campbell did in the last lap? Send it to the inside in the hairpin? No, he can't. The other of the two Aston Martins, not quite as aggressive, into Le Pingle, but now down the back straightaway. Brockway should have a shot at Oliveira if he can stick in the draft here. Oliveira through the chicane on the last lap. He was very, very aggressive. He almost flipped the car. That's how much he mounted in the second part of the curb. He's not going to be able to catch Campbell through the chicane there, but here's the battle for the lead. Owen Watts and Sean Campbell, they've been glued together for the past couple minutes, but Campbell just hasn't been able to make up the gap at all. He's just been stuck about 5/10 behind.
Yeah, he really has been absolutely stuck there. And we see that sometimes at Montreal as they run, that you just get caught behind in a little bit of these battles. But one battle that hasn't certainly died away at all, that is the battle here for the lead. Watts and Campbell continue to be separated by about 5/10 of a second. Getting the sense here that Sean Campbell, a little bit patient, a little bit happy to just bide his time and see if he can maybe force a mistake around this ever tricky circuit from that, forcing a mistake from that McLaren in front of him.
I think he'll be probably waiting a long time for a mistake from Owen Watts here. He has been a very, very stout driver here in Montreal, but there's still 27 minutes left in the race. When it comes down to those dying minutes, if these two are still glued together, when it's actually the fight for the win and not just the fight for the lead, that's when the pressure will really be on, and that's when we'll determine which of these two drivers is better under pressure. And them fighting is really bringing Michael Diaz into the fight. And Oliveira, I don't know if he got help. I think he might have gotten a little bit of a tap, but one way or another, he's around.
Yeah, I think that may have been a little bit of contact there from Adam Brockway in the number 42 Aston Martin as those two made contact going down into the third chicane. You can see Marco slowly getting that car put back the right way. It can be very tricky to, you can't necessarily do the old drop the clutch move. A little bit of aggression there maybe from Brockway, a little bit of a maybe early turn in from the 44. What say you, Joey?
I need to see another angle because the way Oliveira was covering the inside, I don't know if Oliveira just got loose or if there was contact. I don't know what happened there. I'm not going to place blame on any driver, but either way, that is kind of heartbreaking for Oliveira. He was having such a strong race. It was such a great day for Precision Racing Esports. All three of their cars in the top 10. They've still got two cars in the top 10, but Oliveira not with his teammates, and he's got a lot of work to do if he wants to fight back to a good result.
Yes, he does. Another driver trying to do some of that work right now is Carlos Lopez, who was about a couple tenths of a second there behind Devin Lampke. Up ahead of him, Lampke was able to just carry momentum. The 22 throwing a move down into the first corner there, but lost a little bit of ground, and that's some of the give and take you've got to really take around here, that he's losing a little bit of time as they run.
Lopez has only recently caught the back of this fight, and he's been helped by the fact that they've all been racing each other so hard. You go up to Brockway, then you get a second back to Bonilla, then you get a second back to Jonesy, then you get a second back to Lampke, and then you get Lopez here. So it's a little bit of a train at the moment, but as they continue to circulate around, more drivers continue to join the back of the train, and I guess it's whichever drivers have saved their stuff a little bit better, have been a little bit better in terms of tire wear. But here we go, fight for the lead. Campbell's as close as he's ever been. I think Watts must have overcooked the hairpin or something, because this is as close as they've been in the race.
Yes, it is. And here comes Campbell trying to see if there's a little bit of a run to be had. The gap coming down from about 4/10 of a second as they run. Waiting to see here if there's going to be any move firing off for the 26. Looks like he's patient to stay in line at this point, trying to run a good line there out of the center S and down into the first chicane.
Got his hopes up probably, but there's not going to be any move here as we look back. Oliveira in the wars down to the back of the field on the left of your screen. It's the battle for 18th. It was the battle for 8th at one point. He's definitely got speed in that car, and I don't believe it has any damage on it after that spin, so he's got the pace to continue to move forward, but I guess the question is, what's the upper limit for him? Can he make it up to the top 10? It's going to be a tough ask, but he's certainly got pace in that car.
As we focus back on the battle for 18th, right now this is Venaro and ZD. ZD able to send a move down into the first corner there and get that move done for the Mercedes-AMG GT4 driver. Very, very heads up for the number 50, as he is now going to have a couple of drivers up ahead of him. Marco Oliveira, as you said, one of those drivers in particular, and now ZD's going to try to put a little bit of pressure. That's going to be Oliveira trying to get by Matthew Saint-Aubin in the McLaren.
ZD, I think, scrubbed the wall a little bit through that corner. I don't see scuff marks on the side of the car, but I think he definitely hit the wall there. So Blake ZD got away with it. Not too much damage on the car, shouldn't slow him down, but he's playing with fire. He's playing with the limits, and he's up to 18th, but he's got to make sure he keeps it out of the walls.
That is always the tricky thing to do here as we tick down under 23 minutes to go. The gap between Watts and Campbell up at the front of the field has grown a little bit more and now hovers at about 0.5 of a second as they break down into the Senna S. Looks like a good run there through the mid-corner for Sean Campbell as he's trying to hold on to the back of that McLaren as best as he can.
It's almost an echo of what we saw in the F1 race this weekend. It's basically even through the first part of the track, and then when Campbell needs to have that advantage down the back straight, he's just too far back to actually take any advantage of it. So he's got to figure out how to maximize the rest of this track that isn't a straight and stick right to the back of Watts if he's going to want to be able to make this move down the front straight or down the back straight into the chicane.
Well, and you can see there that run through the second chicane, I think certainly coming out to help that BMW driver there. That looked like a very, very good line. Looks like he's able to be a little bit more aggressive through the curbs there, going through the third chicane. Is this going to be the fight back that he needs? The gap down under 0.2 of a second. The BMW driver having a little bit of a look to the inside as we focus back in on that battle in the back of the field right there. That's going to be Doucette Dinsmore, I think, trying to go at it a little bit in the dueling horses. Excuse me. That's a little bit farther down.
That's Oliveira struggling. He's actually fallen behind Blake ZD, who gets out of shape in the braking zone. So Oliveira, he's in the wars. He's not moving his way forward as much as he should. And further back, there's just a couple other drivers. Venaro, Rutherford a couple seconds back. He's fighting with drivers he doesn't need to be fighting for, and that's going to be frustrating for him, but just got to get his head down, and I think he's got the pace in that car to keep moving forward.
I certainly think he does. And Joey, you are a far more experienced. As we've got Devin Lampke off there in 12th, and that is going to slow him down. That's going to allow for Jay Dennis to be able to get on by him. But what I was saying there, Joey, is you are a much more experienced and better driver than I am. As we check and see what happens, I think that was a little bit of incident fixation there for Lampke, just pulling off to the inside and slowing down there to avoid a little bit of an incident.
Yeah, just got on the outside curb, did the same thing that we saw on lap 1 a couple times, and I think that replay was a sign, DJ. It interrupted you because you said I'm a better driver than you, and I think that replay disagrees.
I think that replay may disagree, but I'll tell you what, Jacob Kruger and Andrew Venaro coming down pit lane right now. The first of our pit stops to fire off right at about the halfway point. But no, I will disagree with you on that, Joey. You are a better driver than I am. I have seen you out on track many, many times. And I was going to ask you in that case of when you make that mistake, like we saw Marco Oliveira do earlier on in the race, how hard is that? As we've got to move for the lead. Here it comes. That is going to be Campbell down to the inside of the hairpin, and he's finally got the move done over Owen Watts.
That's what I thought he was going to do on the last lap, but he didn't send it in. But this lap, he was close enough. He did feel confident enough on the brakes to make that move, but now he's got to be careful. Watts has that straight line speed, but it doesn't look like Watts is actually interested in going for the move. He's just going to stick behind him here.
Well, maybe a little bit of fuel saving to come into consideration here. There's plenty of straightaways, plenty of braking zones to be able to lift off a little bit, lift and coast into those corners and certainly sip the fuel a little bit more. Remember that it has been Watts in the lead of this race from the beginning, and he may be a little bit content to be back here. Let's go ahead and watch a replay. That was just a send-it for the 26.
It was, and I think Watts knew it was coming. He gave him the room, didn't squeeze him, and just got in behind. His textbook move from Campbell, nice and clean. To the lead he goes, and now Watts goes from defense to offense. Here we go, the ever battle between Oliveira and ZD is back on.
Yes, it is, and this is going to be ZD trying to come up behind a little bit. Devin Lamke, the latest, by the way, to come down pit lane as of right now, trying to see what they can do. Doesn't look like ZD's going to set the move there necessarily. He's going to hold back on Oliveira, as Oliveira is going to be able to keep ahead right now as they cross over the start-finish line, and it doesn't look like ZD's going to be able to get that move done into turn one.
Now Oliveira's got his second chance. He's made his way back by ZD. Now can he focus forward and continue to move his way forward? Next up on his list is Matthew Saint-Aubin, who's a couple seconds ahead in that black and yellow McLaren there. He's got the speed, but he's got to run away from ZD, and he's got to make sure he doesn't get back by.
Yes, he's going to try. Woo! That was a big moment there from Blake ZD, catching a little bit of the curbing, maybe getting a little bit too early onto the throttle. Very, very lucky boy to be able to hold onto that car.
Yeah, both of them did a very similar thing there, and I think that might have been a bit of target fixation for Blake ZD. He saw what happened to Oliveira, and he just followed him through and did exactly the same thing. But it was a good save for both of them, and that's good for Oliveira that evened out, and he can continue to focus forward. Already on this lap, he's made up half a second the same, so he's certainly got the pace.
Yes, he does, and that BMW tends to be a little bit more of a planted platform. The GT4 tends to have a little bit more understeer as it runs, and that's Saint-Aubin going wide down into the hairpin. Just looked like he completely missed the corner. I almost wonder if that is hardware failure, the way he went off.
Yeah, he just went straight off there, so unless that was the lockup of the century, it might have been a hardware failure. But here we go, pit stops for the top drivers, the top 10, Rob Campbell, Bonilla, Lopez, they're all in. And interestingly, it's a mix of all the cars. We see an Aston Martin, we see a Mercedes, we see a McLaren in the background, we see a Porsche in the background. Everybody's coming in, everybody needs fuel, and everybody should be coming in here soon.
Yes, they are, as we focus back in on the battle for the lead. Only 1 second separating your top three right now, as Michael Diaz has really been able to close up to the back of Campbell and Watts, courtesy of that battle that we've seen raging the past couple of laps.
And Watts could have sent it to the inside there, but he didn't need to, and he did not go for it. Wasn't quite close enough for his perspective. He's going to stick behind Campbell here. And now I wonder, when drivers in the top 10 have already they've already made it to pit lane, do these three front runners just follow them in? They've got a 17-second gap back to the drivers behind them, so they don't really need to worry about an undercut. But looks, that was interesting. Campbell didn't know where to go, and Watts and Diaz coming without him.
That was very, very surprising there to be able to see that. A little bit of a late move for Owen Watts to dive down pit lane. And so that is going to be Watts and Diaz both coming down right now. I think Diaz may have been able to gain some time there on your former leader in the form of Owen Watts. Sean Campbell going to continue on here for an extra lap. Jerome Berthiaume, Lyndon Swaby, and Eric Starpoli all coming down pit lane right now, as is Adam Brockway.
Now what Sean Campbell's got to do in the lead is he just has to maximize this lap and make sure he doesn't get jumped by Watts or Diaz. Diaz leaves the pits. Diaz is going to jump Watts here. Wow.
Was not expecting that, but Michael Diaz may be able to sip a little bit of fuel here as they come back out of pit lane. Comparing the pit stop times, indeed, Diaz was stationary in the lane, stationary in the box for about a second and a half shorter than Owen Watts. So maybe a little bit of fuel saving going on behind the wheel of that Mercedes.
Owen Watts there, he almost cut the inside of turn 4, whatever corner number that is, which you can get a slowdown for doing that if you do that too much. So Watts doesn't appear to have gotten a slowdown from doing that this time, but he's got to be careful. You can't take that much advantage of the track, because if you get a slowdown, that's going to be awful in this battle for the lead for him.
Yes, it is, and there you can see your leader, the number 26, Sean Campbell, working his way down past the rowing lake right here. I've got to imagine that Campbell is going to be coming down pit lane this time by, and yes, he is. The BMW driver brings it into the pit entry there, comes down to pit regulated speed, and the 26 will be coming in. He had a gap of about 30 seconds or so as they came down, and as they run, it's now going to be a question of Diaz and Watts where they're going to come out in relation to the BMW.
Diaz was 1.4 seconds faster in the box than Owen Watts, so now the question is, how long will Campbell be in the box? You can see the second and third place drivers on the bottom of your screen through the final chicane. Campbell's got to get going soon. The two of them are coming, but it's an achingly long time. And there he goes, finally leaves the box. 16.2 seconds, and I think he's got them both cleared. It's very helpful to have that straight line exiting the pits, and that's actually quite a gap over Diaz's. 2 seconds ahead of the drivers he was previously fighting with.
Yes, he is. And as you said, 16.4 seconds stationary in the box there. And so that is going to slot him right in the middle of the pit stop times for Michael Diaz and Owen Watts. Sean Campbell able to make that work. We focus back here on the number 13 as they run. That is Darren Rutherford as he tries to work his way around here. A little bit of a battle starting to develop. That's the number 50 there behind him. Blake Zeedy thought he had a little bit of a run. Now he's going to send it down to the inside.
Yeah, Zeedy has been ahead of Rutherford for the majority of the race. Got jumped in the pit cycle, but there goes Zeedy straight through Rutherford, fairly straightforward through Rutherford as well. And now Rutherford has Matthew St. Aubin to worry about, who's fallen down a couple places. And now the battle for second. These two have to work this out, because if they fight each other too hard, that gap to Campbell's already 3 seconds. It's going to keep expanding, and it's going to be a fight for second for as long as it was a fight for first.
Well, it looks like there that Michael Diaz had no intention of playing nice. He was very defensive going down through the hairpin again. Goes defensive down the back straightaway here. A little bit of a better top line speed advantage for the McLaren of Owen Watts. Is he able to be later on the binders? Yes, he is. Michael Diaz slots into line there behind him as they work their way through the final 2 corners. And now it is Watts back up into P2. Here comes the fight back there from Diaz.
Unless Campbell makes a mistake, this has become the fight for second instead of the fight for the lead, unfortunately. Is down to turn 1. Watts much later on the brakes than Diaz. If he can run away from Diaz and make up a little bit of time on Campbell, he might have a shot, but Campbell honestly was the faster of the two in that first stint of the race, so Watts, his only hope really is that Campbell makes a terrible mistake and throws it off the road, as a lap car does that in front of both of them.
And I believe that was Matt Dinsmore there that had a little bit of a problem. The Porsche driver just catching things wrong coming out of the first chicane. Again, though, that McLaren not looking the best through the fiddly bits on this track, but certainly has the top speed to be able to take it here to the Mercedes. As you can see, they get up to speed here going down into the third chicane. It looks like Watts definitely able to pull ahead to the tune of about 0.4 of a second.
Through this final chicane, Diaz was very strong through there, and I wonder, is he going to send it to the inside? He's a little bit too far back to do it safely, but he's been aggressive, and he's definitely a little bit later on the brakes, but no, doesn't send it to the inside, sticks behind Watts, tries to maximize his exit here, and he might have another shot into the turn 12-13 chicane, but Watts appears to be the faster of the two drivers, and I think Diaz is just slowing them both down as he continues to fight with them.
Yeah, I get that sense as well, but Diaz strangely doesn't look like he has it. Good battle here in the back that we focus in on. That is the number 93 of Rob Campbell trying to hold off Eric Starpoli as they go down into the corner. That's going to be the number 93 Aston Martin, able to hold it out right now ahead of the 66. Lost a lot of time there, did Starpoli, as they went out of the corner. Looks like he tried to run that 66 Mercedes AMG GT4 just a little bit too wide.
Yeah, Eric Starpoli, we have not mentioned his name once in this entire race, and that's actually kind of a good thing. He's had a quiet, solid race. He's been in the top 10 all day. He's been with his teammates in the top 10 here, and he might have just gotten past, but it's been a great, clean race for Eric Starpoli, and he's sticking with Campbell. He might have a shot at getting that top 6 back if he can stay with that Aston Martin driver.
And he's going to want to try to keep as much draft as he can, because he's got Adam Brockway there in the Aston Martin, only about 1.3 seconds behind him. So he's probably going to want to either just hold on to the back here of Campbell, try to take as much speed as he can, or get by as quickly as possible, because Brockway could be closing quickly, and we could see a 3-car battle starting to develop before time runs out.
Yeah, this is an Aston Martin Mercedes sandwich that we've been seeing for the majority of this race in other positions. Staropoli is losing Brockway through these chicanes. He's got a little bit of draft help here, a little bit of straight line speed, but 4/10 of a second and growing is the gap up to 6th. So he shouldn't look back in his mirrors. He shouldn't be worrying about how fast Brockway is catching him, but unfortunately, it seems like that's the way things are going to go, and he's going to have to start thinking about how he's going to defend 8th place soon.
Yeah, he is. That's some good speed there out of Brockway. Brockway able to take about 0.2 of a second, call it 0.3 of a second as they dive down now into the hairpin on this last lap. But Rob Campbell for Lunatic Racing really looks like he's starting to pull that gap. He's got it up to a full second above the 66.
He is running away. Unfortunately, the next car ahead is Lyndon Swaby, who is 6 seconds up the road. So that might not be a make-upable gap in the next 8 minutes, but Campbell holding on to 6th place. That'll still be a pretty strong result for him. Remember, he started 10th, so that's up 5 spots at a track where it's pretty difficult to pass. So it's been a great performance so far for the driver of the number 93.
Yes, it is, and especially with just as aggressive as we have seen this field be, to be able to move your way forward. Very, very good there for him. Want to give a shout out, though, to our 2 biggest movers. That's Damian Benke and Andrew Venaro, who are both up 8 on the day, as is Jacob Kruger. So some big movers on the day, being able to move up those 8 positions.
Yeah, and it definitely helped on lap 1 when there's that little bit of chaos, especially at the hairpin. That's where those guys made up a lot of those positions, but you've got to take advantage of those opportunities when they come. That's how you make up spots when you start that far back. And in a season-long championship, as I always say, every position in the PRL matters. Every position gives you points. So if it's 17th instead of 18th, you might not be happy with the finishing result, but that 1 point might just come in handy at the end of the season.
Yes, it may indeed, as we continue to focus here on the number 93 of Rob Campbell, just stretching that gap out a little bit longer as they run. Campbell probably feeling pretty good here as they go, as he now has that gap up to about 1.5 seconds back to Sirapoli. Here comes a move down to the inside for the 42. Brockway has had enough waiting around. He wants to move forward.
I don't think that was an intentional move from Brockway. He was just later on the brakes and had to evade him by going for the move to the inside. So it was a valiant effort for Adam Brockway. Well done for avoiding the back of Eric Staropoli, but the move was not made, and he's going to have to wait basically a whole nother lap for another chance to make that same move. He's been quicker. He's all over the back of him, but through this final chicane, not quite as close as he needs to be to make a move in 1. I think it's going to be the waiting game, and time is actually running out. This race has flown by. There's only 6 minutes left. Blake Ziti is now getting into trouble in the back as well. Yes, he is, just throwing a move there on Evan Jonesy, and it looks like Ziti's going to try to pull ahead here. You see him moving off to the left-hand side of the circuit, and now back to the right, trying to break the draft past the rowing lake here. Trying to see if he's going to be able to close in on the back is Evan Jonesy as they break down now into the final chicane. Running 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. This is the battle for 14th. And it was once the battle for 18th, so these guys have all managed to jump their way forward just a little bit due to some trouble from the drivers ahead, and they've taken advantage of those opportunities. And Blake Ziti, P14, that's better than he would have expected earlier in this race, but he's got to keep a whole train of drivers behind him here, and it seems like Jonesy is that little bit faster. We've seen Ziti hit the wall in this part of the track before. That's why the right side of that car is crumbled. He almost loses it. He's certainly under pressure here, and Jonesy knows it, I think. Yes, he does. And as a driver, when you see those little mistakes from your competitors, that can just add a little bit of fire underneath you to keep on going. Jonesy all over the back of him. He needs to find a place to go. He had so much momentum there. Can't get to the inside here. Ziti defends. Oh, does he switch back? I thought he was going to send it to the inside. He doesn't, but they are fighting side by side, and Ziti's off the road. There's cars everywhere again. Yes, there are, and that is going to be what looks to be a slowdown penalty for the number 50 Mercedes-AMG GT4 driver of Blake Ziti. He's going to let Damian Benke on by him, and it may be Andrew Venaro as well, who has a little bit of a look down into the hairpin, but it looks like Ziti's able to able to stop the hemorrhage there of positions and hold on. That's going to be him back down into 16th, though, and he's going to have a little bit of work to do with 4 minutes remaining. And he's got one more hungry Porsche behind him. He thinks, maybe because I made that mistake, I'm not ahead of Jonesy anymore. It'll be a little bit less pressure, but no, he's got Venaro behind him now. He's got just as much pressure, and he's got to make sure he doesn't make that same mistake again, as he's got a Mercedes in front of him. He's got a Porsche behind him. Fight for the top 15 still on, but he's got 3 minutes and 54 seconds to keep it out of the grass again.
Yes, he does. He looks like he's got a good run there out of the final chicane. Tries to see if he can get a little bit of anything on Damian Benke up ahead of him, but that's not going to be firing off here anytime soon. As you said earlier, Joey, a lot of damage to the right-hand side of that car, courtesy of some of the walls here around Montreal. Has a little bit of a look to the inside of the first chicane, but that's not going to be anything quite yet.
ZD very, very fast on the exit of the second half of that chicane. Look at this. He's almost to the outside. Is he going to send it? No, he thinks better of it. He definitely could have sent it to the inside there, but I think he knew that that was going to end in a collision. So well done, Blake ZD, for holding back just a little bit, but he is clearly faster than Damian Benke here. He's just got to find a way to get by. I think if he maximizes his exit here in 8 and 9, he'll have a shot at the hairpin, but he's got to maximize that exit first.
Yes, he does. A big, big send down into the corners. Really able to get good power off of the line. There is ZD as he goes. Here comes the move, I think. This looks pretty close. He's going to have a big look to the inside of the number 5. Later on to the binders is Blake ZD, and that is going to be moved done and dusted. A little bit of a defensive line there out to the outside. I love that move from ZD.
Now can Benke go on offense here down the back straight? ZD's had the straight line speed previously, but they're both in Mercedes. The draft with that big wide car does really come into things, but unfortunately ZD is just that much faster in a straight line, and Benke, nothing he could do there. Doesn't seem to be able to stick with him in a straight line, and that should be 15th on lock for ZD.
Yes, it should, and he's got about 2.5 seconds to try to catch back into Evan Jonesy, so I don't think he is going to be able to close that down necessarily in these final 2 minutes remaining here in this opening round for the GT4 Sprint Series of the Precision Racing League. As we continue to watch ZD working his way around, trying to see if he can close that down. I love the tenacity here out of the 50.
He is moving his way forward, but you see that gap on the timing sheet. I didn't even notice how much it's expanded. 1 minute and 16 seconds behind our leaders. That's how dominant that leader, Sean Campbell, and Diaz and Watts, who have been fighting him, have been in this race.
Yeah, let's actually focus in on that battle for P2 right now, as they've been able to work their way by some of the lap traffic of Greg Doucette, but this battle certainly seems like it has the potential to fire off here in this last minute of the race. Diaz only about 0.3 of a second behind Watts, and we've seen that Mercedes be devilishly quick through the twisty bits.
These guys know, oh, he clipped the grass a little bit on entry. That's not going to help things, but he manages to keep it riled up down the second of the back straights to 8 and 9. It's going to be the white flag at the line here, so chances for Diaz are running out, so he's got to be aggressive here. He's got to take advantage of opportunities whenever they come to him, and that was a great braking zone in 8 and 9, but I don't think he's going to be close enough for a safe lunge in the hairpin.
I don't think he is as well, but as you said, white flag next time by, so one more potential opportunity, and as a driver, you have just got to focus in on this last lap, try to get every last advantage that you can.
Pretty solid hairpin for Diaz there, but down the back straight, this is where he's got to master this. He's got the straight line speed, he's got the draft, but is he close enough to send it to the outside in that final chicane? He isn't, but he's got one more lap. He's got one more try at every single corner to make that move.
Yes, he does. Not going to be able to get it here. Looks like a little bit of a wide run as... Oh, no, it's going to be checkered flag. Checkered flag for Sean Campbell as he crosses over the line. It's going to be Owen Watts who is able to take P2, and Michael Diaz just that narrow off, not able to get it done.
That was one of those tough situations where the clock was ticking down those final seconds. Diaz probably hoped that there were a couple extra seconds on the clock, but unfortunately, it was just in that range where it was the checkered flag and not the white flag. So those extra couple seconds definitely would have helped Watson, or would have helped Diaz, but checkered flag comes out. Campbell wins, and everybody else bringing it home. Staropoli, great finish. Keith Bonilla, solid finish. Basically everybody who was in the top 10 stayed in the top 10 for the most part.
Yes, they did. The only real dropout that we had of that order was Brian Vorse, who looks like he'll end up coming home about 27th or so. More drivers crossing over the start-finish line, waiting for Jay Dennis to cross over to round out your top 10. A very, very exciting race here. The GT4 Sprint Series putting on one heck of a show around the circuit Gilles Villeneuve.
It was a heck of a show, and there's a runaway for the lead as we got a photo finish a little bit further back in the pack. That's actually Marco Oliveira who ran into trouble. That was a photo finish with Lopez. Unfortunately, couldn't beat him to the line. It'll be 13th for Oliveira. Still a solid recovery. P13 could be far worse in a field of 30 drivers. Solid recovery for Oliveira, and a solid finish for Lopez as well in 12th.
Yes, it is able to finish the race where he started, which sometimes can be a little bit trickier than you would imagine. Waiting for the last couple of drivers there. Looks like Matthew Saint-Aubin had a little bit of a rough run there coming off the corner. He's going to come home in 22nd position, and that's going to actually round out your finishers there as they go. So let's go ahead and bring you to our final finishing order. As we said, Sean Campbell, the privateer, able to take victory here in that BMW. Owen Watts in second for Hardport Pride Delta Sport, and then Michael Diaz for the Precision Racing Esports team, able to take the final podium position. Jerome Berthiaume will be fourth with Lyndon Swaby there in fifth, Rob Campbell in sixth, and Adam Brockway in seventh. Eric Starpoli in eighth with Keith Bonilla ninth, and Jay Dennis rounding out your top 10. In 11th, it is Devin Lamke with Carlos Lopez and Marco Oliveira there in 13th. Evan Jonesy and Blake Ziti behind him in the 50. Dabian Benke in 16th, followed by Andrew Venaro and Darian Rutherford in 18th. Jacob Kruger and Christian Lisiak round out your top 20. In 21st, it was Jeffrey Seebach with Matthew Saint-Aubin and Brian Hoskins, the last driver to finish on the lead lap. Greg Doucette was the first driver, one lap down in 24th. David Wilson was in 25th, followed by Matt Dinsmore. Brian Vorse was 2 laps down, followed by Felipe Winkler, Nicholas Cariandis there, 3 laps down as well. And then we get into some of the drivers that did not finish, including Matthias Arunga there, and then moving down the order as they run. And that's just waiting here for a couple of the drivers to show up in our interview room as they go. And Joey, an absolutely incredible race, it really has to be said.
It really was an incredible race up front. It strung out after that pit stop. It was a fantastic run through pit lane for Sean Campbell, but it was a dominant win for Sean Campbell. And it looks like we've got Jerome Berthiaume waiting. It was a solid race for him, 4th place, a little bit further back than he would have hoped. He would have been hoping to fight for the podium, but DJ, talk with Jerome here.
I will indeed. Jerome, a new series, a new season, and a P4 to start things off. That has got to be a good way to set things down here.
Yeah, I can't complain. I was not expecting that. I know it's my own track, so I know the track pretty well, but I'm usually not good at this track, and I think it's my best result in all my life on this circuit. So yeah, it's a very good season for not only for me, but a very good start of season for my team with my teammate Diaz P3. So very good start of season.
Well, talk to me a little bit about the team decision here. I mean, you guys are kind of all driving different GT4s here across the board. Is that throwing you off a little bit, or do you like the ability to have sort of different bites at the apple with everybody running different cars?
It's hard to say. With the limited time I have to practice, I needed to choose the car that I was more comfortable with, and the BMW was really the one that suit myself. And I know Michael wanted to give it a shot to the new car, to the new GT4, and you know, Michael is fast in every car, so I was not it's sure that it will get good result.
Well, you got a good result for here, and I have to ask you, as we look ahead on the rest of the schedule, what is the hope for this season? What is your goal? What are you charging for?
Hard to say, just to keep the car clean. To be honest, tonight I have the feeling that I got the best of the rest with Watts and Diaz and Campbell just flying away in front. There was no way for me to follow them, so I had the feeling that I was just the best of the rest tonight. So let's hope that I can continue. So with my teammate, I think we are focusing mainly on the team championship. That's my main focus, if I can help the team, because I know that Diaz would be able to fight for for the top of the standing.
Well, we wish you all the luck in the world as the season goes along, Jerome, and we are very much looking forward to the rest of this season with you and the rest of the Precision Racing League.
Thank you very much. So I would like to thank you guys for broadcasting. Thanks VCO. A big thanks to Advent Sim Racing, RaceLab, Bot Kicker, and Ninja Traders. So thanks to all our sponsors.
Thank you, Jerome, and congratulations once again. And I think that's going to move us right over to Jerome's teammate, Michael Diaz and Joey. You've been able to catch up with our third place finisher.
Yeah, Michael, first of all, my first question is just noticing between these two interviews, you and Jerome, you're teammates, but you're driving two different cars. He's in the BMW, you're in the Mercedes. How does that dynamic work out for you guys?
Hey guys, yeah, he felt more comfortable in the BMW. I wanted to try the new shiny toy, so that's what we did there. It's nothing really specific.
I can always relate to wanting to try the shiniest new toy, but onto the race today. You were third in that fight for the lead for the longest time, but after that pit stall, it became a fight for second with Owen Watts. At the end of the race, we got a little bit confused with the checkered flag and the white flag. Were you hoping for one extra lap to get another shot at Owen Watts, or did you know that that was your last shot at the hairpin there?
I made a mistake coming out of the previous corner. Got on the grass a little bit. But no, we had an extra lap that I would have run out of fuel, so that was about it.
Yeah, you take some, you lose some, I guess. But in that battle with Owen, you guys were running side by side for that first lap out of the pits. Did you guys know it was going to be a fight for second, or did you guys kind of lose hope that you were going to be fighting with Sean Campbell after you went side by side for a couple laps and lost a couple seconds?
Yeah, we lost a little bit of time entering the pits because Sean wasn't pitting yet, so that kind of caught us off. So yeah, after that he was clear at the pit stop, and it was just a fight for second. But I could not keep up with that McLaren. That thing flies.
It certainly does, but next week we fly a little bit further south from Montreal down into upstate New York and Watkins Glen. How do you feel about Watkins Glen, and how do you feel about that boot layout specifically?
I prefer that track to this one. I honestly am not that good at this track with the off tracks. So yeah, we'll see what happens there. Hopefully we could fight these guys a little bit harder for that track. But yeah, overall we got a good team's points haul, so that's what's important towards the end.
Indeed it was. Solid points haul for Precision Racing Esports, and that was Michael Diaz, your third place finisher. Third and fourth for Precision Racing Esports, and then down to 13th, but it'll only be the two highest cars that are scored in the team's championship in this series. So DJ, a certified great day for Precision Racing Esports.
A very good day for Precision Racing Esports. And Joey, you know, as we look ahead into the rest of this schedule, as you said, going to Watkins Glen next, it's going to be a fantastic run, and I cannot wait to see what is going to happen for the rest of this season. We saw some great action here today in the GT4s, and I think it's only going to continue.
And if we can replicate what happened today in every other race this season, with Campbell versus Diaz versus Watts, maybe a couple others joining the fray at some other tracks, we're in for a heck of a title battle, as we see so often in the PRL.
Yes, we are, and there you can see the Watkins Glen boot layout that we will be running. Certainly going to be a little bit of drafting going on there, I have to think. I'm very, very excited to see these GT4s around this classic American circuit.
So am I. It's honestly probably my favorite track in the world, if not just in the US. It's a fantastic track, and I think a lot of these drivers are going to be looking forward to it as well. It's a classic track. It's a great racing track. Everybody loves Watkins Glen, and if they say they don't, they're probably lying.
I have to agree with you there, Joey. But that's about going to round up our coverage here today of the Precision Racing League MX-5 and GT4 Sprint Series. On behalf of all of us here at RaceSpotTV, we would like to thank you for joining us. My name is DJ Clark. Joey Tevin has been joining me here in the booth, and Hugo Luis is our director and producer behind the scenes. And like I said, we will be back at the same time next week as we move locations to Brands Hatch Indy Circuit and to the Watkins Glen boot layout for the GT4 Sprint Series. But until we see you on the track, thanks for watching.